Welcome to Eclectic Soundtrax Podcast. On this episode, we chat with guitarist Travis Larson and bassist Jennifer Young of the fusion rock trio Travis Larson Band. They join us today from Treehouse Studios amid writing their new album. We chat about the tenure of their 3-decade career, touring, innovations of bands and their tour bands, Brian Beller's wonderful hair and love of spreadsheets, endorsement deals, the NAMM show, and Travis's weird obsession with milk. TLB has an impressive resume with 7 albums and 3 full-length DVD performances. And they have toured or shared the stage with such notable acts as Steve Lukather, Victor Wooten, Dave LaRue, Ted Nugent, UFO, Steve Morse, and the Aristocrats. Before we get started, we'd just like to remind you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and spread the word. We'd also like to thank our friends at Godin Guitars, Tragan Guitars, Ernie Ball Strings, and 5 Iron Woodworks. So pour a glass of milk, get yourself a Krispy Kreme donut, and enjoy the conversation. Hey, Travis Larson Band. Travis Larson and Jennifer Young. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. You can tell we've been having fun before we ever started.
Yeah, I know the sun is coming up here already, so we're in Austin, and you're in. Since we already talked about everything before we started this podcast, tell me where you're at again? The town in the middle of nowhere between San Francisco and LA.
I just watched The Irishman on Netflix while we were getting ready.
Accurate.
We are in San Luis Obispo, California area, which is halfway between LA and San Francisco. It's not a major, it's a smaller city, and we are outside of that city, so we're actually in a really small kind of beach town. But we are all within a mile of each other. Jennifer lives on the same street as I do. I can literally roll my bike down the street to her house in like 2.5 minutes. And then Dale lives down the street a little further, and we can, continue the coast on the bike to Dale's house. So, right. So we're all very, very close. We try not to see each other much, but we're very close now.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are living the dream.
Yeah. Jennifer and I have been locked up in this studio that we're in right now, which is where I live. This is Treehouse Studios. So we have a commercial studio, which is Avalon recording studio, which is where we track the big loud stuff usually. And then I have this studio here, which is kind of Jen and my working domain, because you don't want to share your space with the drummer every day.
Yeah.
Drummers by adult standards are insane. So.
Oh, really? Is Dale? Does he fit that profile?
He's a drummer.
So default to the yes.
So this room here is for musicians, and then he has his own room.
Right, he just bangs on stuff, and you give him a thumbs up.
So this band is stupidly similar to Rush in many ways. Not the successful way, but in the way that Dale has been in the band for 22, 23 years, something like that, and he's the new guy. And Jen and I, we've been together since 1989, something like that.
Holy cow! Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So somehow she still comes over and works every day. And, we haven't killed each other yet. We're in the midst of writing right now, so this is probably like the most high tension part of the process, and we haven't done that in 5 years.
So we got you guys on the podcast at a perfect time. There's a lot of tension. You're like,
right. I'm sitting here with my arms crossed, like, what am I doing here?
I hate you so much. My bass is. Why'd you take my bass down 2 dB?
Right. No, we haven't gotten there yet. That'll be like late summer. We get into those discussions. Right now, we're just. I think you should add one more note.
Yeah.
That's where
not that note.
Yeah, right.
Add a different note.
We can get more music in here. We need to squeeze more music.
Right.
Can you add any other note than the one you just picked, just because you picked it and I don't like you right now?
Right. That's pretty much, that's what's going on.
Excellent.
But yeah, so we were starting our first album since 2016.
Right.
And that's the longest we've ever gone in our entire careers without coming out with an album.
I was looking through your discography and exactly. Your first album came out in 90, was it 98?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was, so going back to Avalon Studios, we actually built that studio to make that album, essentially. Our engineer, Kip, at the time, Kip Stork, we had only done demos with him in the garage where he had, is it like a DAT recorder?
Mm-hmm.
This is a long, we could start from the beginning because this is a long podcast, right? So.
Well, we spent half of it sound checking. So.
Right. We've only got 15 minutes left,
right.
But go ahead.
Right.
Well, I'll backtrack to the main origins, but the story of the first album is we had made some demos just playing live in garages with drummers other than Dale. And Dale Moon, our current drummer for the last 23 years, the new guy, he was in a band called Rocksteady Posse, which was a hip hop reggae band, and
very similar to your sound now.
Right.
Exactly.
I was going to say that's kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing but people jumping all night long.
Right.
That's why he was the perfect fit.
Booty shaking. Yep.
Yeah.
But Dale was in a band where it was Hodge, the keyboard player.
I think so.
The keyboard player had like the only portable DAT recorder in town. This is a long time ago, and this, it was like the size of a Walkman. That's even longer ago for kids watching, but it was a DAT player, which was like a digital recorder. It was like, ooh, you could record digitally, and then you could transfer that to CDs. And so we rented that from his band to make some demos with a different drummer before Dale was in the band, and that's kind of how the connection to Dale originally started. And then Dale had blown out his rotocuff or whatever it was. Is that what it's called?
Rotor, yeah.
Stop,
this thing.
Stop invading. Stop invading Jennifer's space.
We were talking about smells earlier. so you're gonna put this on my armpit. So he had been playing in a hip hop reggae band like 25 nights a month, 30 nights a month sometimes, doing for like 2-3 hours a night, and just basically worn out and torn his rotator cuff. And so because of that, and he had always wanted to be in a band like this, but because of that, he was not able to play in that band, and he was not playing, and our sound guy was like, this is your guy. He's always wanted to be in a band like that. He's an incredible drummer. He's been in this other band for years, but when he joined this band, he couldn't play. And so that's kind of how that started. And then we built the studio, and he was like getting his chops together, starting to do small gigs with us, and rehabilitating while we were building a studio for 2 years.
Wow.
And then I just realized it's kind of a different angle on this story that I've told before, which is cool.
Yeah, it's refreshing.
Right. So, but, and then we got this studio built. It's like, I think it's 3,000 square feet or something like that. And it's a real studio. And, we've had John Anderson using it, and, a lot of people that besides us, Kip Stork, our sound guy, makes his living off of the studio and doing live sound when you can do live sound, which isn't for the last over a year. So, but we built that place, so we have a permanent residence of a place to be, and then we have, he can make his living there, and so it's like good for everybody, So we're like kind of like silent partners with the place. We don't make money off of it, but we have a space, we have a part of it, and when we want to use it, we kind of like block out time.
That's great.
And then we have this place here, which is at the house I live at, which is a room within a room in the garage where you could play full blast, full band with drums and everything. But really, it's just Jen playing Led Zeppelin songs on the drum kit and us working on new material here. So.
Back to the question, the first record.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I do want some footage of that Led Zeppelin drumming, though.
I took a picture the other night.
Oh, brother. And that was Carl Palmer, anyways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, trying and impress the people. Jen was playing Carl Palmer the other night.
Yeah, not really.
What was it we were playing though? We were playing Fanfare for the Common Man, and she was doing that.
Real tough.
Right?
Dale had flashbacks of that beat.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I have this picture anymore.
So, yeah.
That's okay. You can send it to us, and then I'll just
be inserted into the video.
So
confuse everybody. They'll be like, "Wait, so this is a podcast about a girl drummer? I don't understand.
Right.
Who's Travis Larson? What the hell are they talking about?"
So that was how we got to the first record. But to start with, when did we meet, Jen?
You already said that. 1989.
Yeah,
and was that in the current city that you're in now that no one's ever heard of, or was it somewhere else? Where are you from originally?
Well, there's more to this story. Exactly.
Okay. I'm originally from Southern California, and my folks moved up to the Central Coast in actually 88. And I started high school as a junior, met Travis in photo class, and discovered he was a guitar player. And I had just picked up bass around that time, 15 years old. He was 15 years old, had just started playing guitar. So we hooked up when we first started playing our instruments.
Wow. That's awesome.
Like I say, it's a very similar kind of Alex and Getty type vibe.
Yeah.
As far as that whole thing goes.
And I gave him a mixtape with Rush tunes and I think some Zeppelin and things like that. And at the time, he was heavily into fusion, the Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea type of stuff. So we melded our little worlds together.
She basically,
cool.
I mean, I had heard of Rush, and obviously you guys have seen the band, so you know there's a huge Rush influence there, even though it's an instrumental band. But she basically introduced me to Rush. I had seen Rush on Night Flight, if you guys remember that. I don't know how old you guys are, but probably not as old as I am.
We're up there.
Yeah, we're up
this
there.
This is just for men.
Right. See, I just actually a couple of weeks ago shaved the COVID beard off because it was so out of control. It was getting in my food and stuff. So I started over from scratch. But
Me too. I really had to take care of that.
Yeah, Jen had to also.
Tom Hanks from Castaway.
Yeah, that's where I was at. Absolutely. Jen gave me this mixtape, and I gave her one of some of my playing, and then a few other things on there. I think there was like some stuff.
Stanley Jordan stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love your influences. That's so interesting because I think what did it say, 88, for me it was like, I hadn't even started playing guitar yet, but it was like, Metallica and whatever. And you're like coming out the gate with Stanley Jordan and Chick Corea.
It's a time
Rush.
thing. I talked about this recently, but because we just lost Chick Corea, and I saw Chick Corea for the first time on the Merv Griffin show.
Oh wow!
On television with Herbie Hancock playing a duet, right,
Holy
with
cow.
a full band. And I just found this out, which I never knew, but in my little mind, it's sort of a weird full circle kind of thing where I found out that Steve Morse was at that show, and I saw pictures of him with those guys and Merv Griffin. Like, he was just hanging.
Wow.
And it was like, I'm going to go down and see these guys because I can get in kind of thing, I think. So to see that and be such a huge, we haven't talked about that yet, but he's such a huge Steve Morse guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he's my kind of main mentor guy, So to find that out and never knowing that until like last week, and then seeing this picture of him, and the first time I saw anything that wasn't the Rolling Stones or, the Who or that kind of thing was Chick Corea on the Merv Griffin show. And I was like, what is this? And that kind of changed my perspective of what music was in a way. I wasn't really playing music yet, but I was digging music. And then before I ever played guitar, I got like back when Thrifty's Drug and Discount Store was a thing. Now it's CVS. They had these little Casio keyboards you could buy. And my mom bought me a little red Casio keyboard, and I would sit there and start picking stuff out on that. And then the keyboards started getting bigger as I got older, you know. And that went to the point where, you know, I'll just do this really quick, but, you know, that's like today, right?
You got several back there.
So... Yeah,
what are some of those? Because I play keys as well, and I say same thing for me. I started out with a little Casio, and you hit, it's like bossa nova and pop and whatever, and we'd like hit these little beats and pretend we were rappers and hey, you know, I'm the White Knight, and just horrible stuff. We're gonna cut that. I can't believe I said that. But like, yeah, man. Like, so what do you play now? What kind of keys?
Well, there's a 1971 Mark IV Rhodes 88 right there that I've had since I was 10. So the real deal, like that's something Chick would actually play. And then I've got like a full size Korg electric piano, some kind of, with like a sampled weighted electric piano. And then, a couple other things that I've had for years and years. I don't even remember what they are, but old synthesizers. And then I actually, a few years ago, coming full circle, started endorsing Casio because they started making some great stuff.
Yeah.
And so I have a Casio workstation. I think it's the WK7600 or something like that. But I got that specifically because you could sequence. This is something that I hadn't seen anyone do, and I wanted it for practicing improvising. But you can create a sequence and then trigger the sequence from different keys, and it changes the key of the sequence.
Okay.
So I was able to create like riffs and like you could take something, just as a stupid example, like make like Chameleon. You know, like, and you could take that riff and you could change the key of it on any key and improvise over it. And so that was fun for practice. So that's why I got that. But yeah, so started out on keyboards back, you know, I know I was getting down
100 years ago.
100 years ago.
So does, with having all those keyboards in the studio, does Jennifer just go play like John Paul Jones stuff on them then, or what?
Well, she plays drums.
Right.
She's got a drum kit. That's actually her drum kit that we have in this studio.
Isn't it funny? Like, you're kind of known for an instrument, right? And you're a guitar player, you're the bass, but you always want to play something else too, right? Like, sure. I'm that guy too. I love playing whatever I mean, same thing. Not recently. Like, ironically enough, I got an electronic drum kit to practice, and I really haven't done much with it. But like when I was doing like classes and stuff in person, I would have like teach at a school and have classes. And that was like my favorite thing to do is like get on the drums, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just glue it together. And it's kind of fun for everyone that way. But I think as a guitar, and then you get around a real drummer and you're like, oh yeah, you think you're good, and then you're like, no, I'm not, I suck. But it's
every musician that plays at least in some kind of like a rock, funk, or blues or jazz band or whatever should play some level of drums, right? Enough to play a rock beat. Like, because you should have an understanding of what's what, especially if you're going to compose music or trying to write songs. You should understand like some basic knowledge of here's where the kick drum generally goes, here's where the snare goes. Because, you know, there's people that don't have any concept of that nowadays that just drop loops out of GarageBand or whatever it is. And so, you know, if you're going to play an instrument, you should have enough knowledge to kind of know what it is to sit there and go do do ka do 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 ka do, you know, just even if you're just playing AC/DC songs or whatever.
Dude, drums and keyboards, that's where it's at. I've heard a lot of students that want to take in certain schools or whatever, that they want to play drums, they have to study piano first. And you're going to get all the fundamentals from those two instruments, I think, in a rhythmic sense, and then everything on the piano in terms of theory and scale, blah blah blah, right?
Well,
but
when I started
starting on that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, when I started on keyboards, she was starting on drums, right?
Yep. I had a drum set when I was like 13 or 14, and so that was my starting point. Also, it's one of those things you just never can let go of. Your first love, and you're the same way with keyboards, I think. You know?
Yeah. Well, and my brother was 9 years older than me, so he was playing like ELP vinyl out of his room and stuff like that, you know. So I heard like all that crazy stuff happening around me in the house. And so I was exposed to that. I was exposed to guys that had too many keyboards, you know, back in the day. So nowadays you don't need too many keyboards because, you know, everything could trigger everything else, but it's fun to have too many keyboards. And if you can do it,
Yeah, I love watching those bands where you've got like 2 drummers and percussion and multi keyboards, like, you know, the Zappa kind of thing, and everyone's playing 45 different instruments. It's incredible, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you started, was that the first thing you wanted to play, was drums? Or did you just want to play music?
Yeah, I would say drums. I was kind of forced to play piano a little bit, like every kid, you know. Not lessons, but just, here's a piano, go busy yourself with that and leave me alone. And I tried. And then drums, just, I don't know, they're just such a caveman thing. And I was always coming from a caveman kind of place in my youth and running around being crazy. It didn't last long, though, because they were hard to control, and, you know, setting them up, it was so complicated for me. I just wanted a thing that I could just play.
So true. Yeah. Pain in the ass.
Total. Yeah. And somehow I discovered the bass instrument without even knowing. I mean, you know how it was back in our day. You didn't have all the visuals of, you know,
YouTube and
all
all
these
that stuff.
things. You had the radio and records if you were lucky. And so I didn't know what a bass was, figured it out. And that to me seemed like a really good compromise between the melodic instrument and the drums, something you could kind of bang on and get away with it. Like, you know, some bass players out there. You can caveman on a bass.
We used to record, like we talk about TV performances, and I used to record TV performances on a cassette player.
Oh, yeah.
Before I had a VCR. You know, this is like Herbie Hancock would be on David Letterman or something, like the early David Letterman, and you would record that with your, like, you know, you could get, where I lived, you could get NBC on the radio, and so you'd do that, you tune it in, and then record the performance, and then you'd be like, oh, yeah, and then that would be like a live version you could listen to, you know. It was so stupid. I know we spent a lot of these podcasts talking about how old we are.
I know. It's really...
It is interesting, though, because back, you know, when you say back then, it's not that long ago. You think back to the 80s and then the early 90s, even, you know, pre-internet, right? And everything's everywhere now, and it's just overload accessible everywhere. But once upon a time, those moments were magic, and you had to be there and see it. And like you said, in one way or another, you captured that, and it was this magical thing that you didn't have it at your disposal whenever you felt like grabbing it. Yeah. So it would meant something. And for me, I started playing, you know, guitar in high school, and I think I played a little piano for that, but I kind of started the two at the same time. And I didn't have a lot of music influence. I mean, just the right amount of stuff. Like, they were all just little cassette tapes that my parents had, whether it was some, you know, the Big Chill soundtrack, right? You guys will know. I'll take you back to the 80s on that one. Or, you know, it was like that was like the Forrest Gump soundtrack of the 80s, right? It had all these classic rock bands, and then they had the Doors' greatest hits, and Sgt. Pepper, and the Eagles, and Fleetwood Mac Rumors. And so it was just getting exposed to that and having that bounce around in my head. And then when I kind of came in, you know, really kind of came into a teen and started playing, and I think all that served me well, just having heard something that was good.
Your parents were cool. My goodness.
No, they weren't. No, Here's the thing about my parents, and I talk about this all the time. Like, I found out after the fact, because my dad had kind of like not checked out entirely. Like, we had those cassette tapes and the van family trips and shit. Yeah. But like, he kind of was like, he listened to a lot of classical, which was actually really cool too, because I was very influenced by like classical piano music. But I later found out when I started getting really into music that he just had this insane record collection. And I was like, why were you never playing all these records? And I started like going back and like finding all this great classic rock. So I got like a little taste, but I grew up too. Like, you'll remember the 80s when it was just like heavy metal is satanic, you know what I mean?
Right,
so I remember hearing a Black Sabbath record, and I thought it was satanic.
Dude, even when you were watching like early MTV and you saw AC/DC in those days, and it was like a black and white, and you never actually knew what Angus looked like because he never stopped headbanging to the point where you never saw his face, right? I remember those guys even were so scary. It was just like, you know, back when, you know, it was like he had like cut off, you know, denim jackets and the cap on. You never saw him, and it was all like this, and it was like those guys were dark and scary, and that was like nowadays that's just rock and roll.
Exactly. You know? It's well, I mean, once upon a time Elvis was shocking, and then AC/DC was shocking, and now it's like exactly like if someone says what is the if you could define rock and roll with one band, just straight up rock and roll, I'd probably say AC/DC. It's just 4/4 fucking groove. It everything about it. 3/4 chords, pentatonic guitar solos. That's rock and roll.
And if anybody really knows, I mean, AC/DC. I mean, if you take the guy screaming out, you got Chuck Berry. I mean, and Angus would tell you that, right? It's like he basically took Chuck Berry and slowed the downbeat down and like made it a little heavier, but. That's kind of what he's doing. And all the lead guitar is straight up Chuck Berry. And then you got this guy with his blood-curdling screams over the top. And you're like, what is this when it first came out?
All of a sudden it's metal. Yeah,
exactly.
All that old stuff really just came from, older rock and roll, which was derived from blues and all that. But like one of the bands Sabbath is maybe the exception that really came out pretty fucking heavy for 1970, right? And they were like, whoa. I remember the first time I heard Black Sabbath, I'm like, wow,
Right.
But most other stuff, I mean, it's been called Zeppelin heavy metal, but was it really? We were just talking about this on a podcast one or two back about, I really loved so much of Jimmy Page's acoustic playing and a lot of the acoustic Zeppelin stuff. They had a lot of great riffs, but man, I think
I'm going to hip you to something
was so cool.
I'll hip you to something more and more people are becoming hip to, which is the Jimmy Page soundtrack for Death Wish 2. And it's basically the only instrumental Jimmy Page electric guitar record. And I've been listening. I've had that on vinyl since that movie came out in like 1982, 83, something.
Why do I want to think like Charles Bronson or something? No?
Oh, yeah. Charles Bronson, Death Wish.
Holy
exactly.
shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He had great lines like, so you believe in Jesus? Well, you're going to meet him. Stuff like that.
Dude, I had no idea Jimmy Page ever did a soundtrack like that.
And that was actually, so we talked about the first cassette that I gave Jennifer. There was a bunch of my playing on it. There was me trying to do the Stairway to Heaven version that Stanley Jordan did. I actually learned the tapping version, which I could probably flounder through nowadays. And then there was a couple of things off of the Death Wish 2 soundtrack that Jimmy Page played.
Wow.
And one in particular, which I think is one of the greatest tracks of all time, but that's such a underground record, and people are starting to find it now because guys like me are talking about it. But if you want, Jimmy Page, like an instrumental electric record, that's the one.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Yeah, definitely never in a million years would have known that. I mean, you got that kind of stuff, right? Wasn't it like Clapton was on several soundtracks in the 80s. Wasn't he a guitar on Lethal Weapon or something? Could be wrong.
Yeah, he did Lethal Weapon 2 with Sting, where they redid the Sting song. I hate to say it, I have to say it, it's probably me. You know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was Eric Clapton on that. It's a different version than the Sting record version.
Yeah.
Vic's over there just like, what?
I was thinking about what was it that really horrible movie that guy was talking about? Samurai Cop, was that it?
Oh man, yeah. One of my best friends. I think I mentioned it before we started. A guy over in England that the dude that I saw you guys in New York with.
That dude.
That guy. Remember meeting him that night?
You remember that guy?
Remember how we all hung out and did a bunch of cocaine? Remember? That was so great. You don't remember that? So. Yeah, he was.
That great? I don't remember.
He is the master of horrible fucking movies and finding them and showing them to me. And I don't like. There was this thing called Birdemic. It's just the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe it. Birdemic. Like, what do you call them? GIFs, right? Or the little. Yeah. Like that's their bird effects, and they just sit there going and like things are blowing up in the background. It's horrible, beyond horrible. There's no even the audio. There's no audio and video collectively put together. It's just like, hi there, how are you? Like it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm going to tie this together in a way that you could have never foreseen, which is Jen and I, for years,
did the soundtrack for Birdemic.
Right.
No,
how did you know?
No, we are official clerks. We worked at and managed a video store. Me for 11 years and her probably close to that. She left before I did. And then, I haven't had a job since, so like a real job, quote unquote. But yeah, we did that. That was our 90s, was working at a video store. And so
that's amazing. So do you must have a pretty good knowledge of lots of movies, I would think, and maybe a lot of shitty underground movies and cult
Generally
classics.
speaking, yeah. Although I will say that my COVID brain is just killing that part of me lately because it's like, for some reason, everything's becoming disjointed with like, honestly, I think it's because all our conversations are like this. Everything is on a screen and your brain it needs a defragment.
It could have something to do with that age thing we were discussing.
It was fine a year ago. It started with the COVID thing.
All, it goes downhill really fast.
I think it's the fact that I'm twiddling my thumbs and eating too much and
all that cocaine.
And that you're like, yeah.
For the record, you guys have great Coke. Thanks again for the New York.
No problem. Anytime.
The irony is I won't even drink regular Coke.
Right.
Yeah. There's a running joke in the music business that we're the milk drinking rock band, and these guys don't even drink milk.
I don't even drink milk.
Wow, weirdo. So what? Milk. Who drinks milk anymore? That shows your age more than anything. Milk is so 1980s. You're stuck in the 1980s like, this does my body good. And everyone else is like, no, it's terrible for you. And it's weird.
Right. Exactly.
Like now when you say milk, you mean real like cow's milk, not like almond milk, not soy milk.
Coconut milk.
Well, I started
milk.
I started doing coconut and almond milk a few years ago because of her.
I love the way you say it like a drug. I started doing coconut milk in the around 2013.
She's the one trying to keep me current, so like, because I won't change. I'll just do what you do. I'm still talking about the 4 food groups, you know what I mean? That's I do the 4 food groups, and I do my calisthenics, I do my push-ups and my sit-ups, and I ride my bike, and that's my workout,
That's pretty good, man. I think some things never change. That sounds pretty legit, except for the milk. I'm glad that Jennifer got you up to date. I don't feel like I've had actual milk, cow's milk for years. I love almond milk now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I say love, but I mean, I drink it with shakes. And
I just bought some today, but I have it on, like chocolate Cheerios and stuff like that. That's
super healthy. Well, Vic's kind of the nutrition health guy. Like, what's your take on this milk business, Vic?
I like milk, but
and there you have it.
Yeah. I mean,
and it all ends with Vic.
That's it. Yeah, almond milk's okay, but I just like real milk. So
look, at the end of the day, when someone with my voice tells you that, to drink almond milk, and then Vic comes in with his voice and says almond milk's okay, but I drink real milk like a man, then they're going to go drink real fucking milk.
Right.
Yeah, but Vic smokes a pack a day, right? That's.
I don't know. Yeah, right? He should. I don't know how he gets away with he's somehow healthy.
Voice. The way I get that voice is from not sleeping and talking too much, and I get that voice. So.
I think it's my whiskey voice. Yeah. I drink a lot of whiskey. Yeah.
So manly. All of it just so manly.
Whiskey, cigars, pipes.
Yeah. Well, and Vic is a good name for a guy like that.
Yeah.
Milk. Real milk.
Real milk whiskey.
I was watching, what was Parks and Rec, right? The TV show.
Yeah.
There was a scene where they were talking about milk and what were they like? Oh, almond milk's not in anymore. Whatever. We're talking about beef milk now, and of course Ron Swanson's like, milk. You mean milk from a cow?
Beef milk.
Beef milk. That was the new thing. The fashion.
I got to hand it to you guys. This is the first podcast we've actually talked about milk. We talked about a lot of topics, but
well, here's the thing. I had a couple of fans that so I notoriously don't do anything bad, but generally speaking, I do like. Here's how I stay awake when I've got to drive all night: is I'll do like Krispy Kreme donuts or that kind of thing, And so it got out there, and then I had this a couple of fans of ours who are great friends of ours now, who started bringing me a box of donuts to every single gig. Every gig, and you can't go through a box of donuts in 24 hours. I mean. You should
That's
not.
tough.
Yeah. So,
what about the rest of the band though? Do you share them, or you don't share them?
No.
Or they
These
just
guys,
don't, they have nothing to do with them?
No, I'm the dirtiest one in the band. I'm the one. These guys won't touch that stuff. They're smarter than that. But I'm the one in there like chopping up little lines, of Krispy Kreme donut and.
I could go another 6 hours.
Exactly.
With Coke sprinkled on it.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So, and I'm generally the driver. So, that's my key to that is eating too much sugar and going and going and going if I have to. So
Those things make great hamburger buns, by the way.
Oh, dude. I've got a picture of, I took as a screenshot where for a while KFC was doing a thing where they put chicken breast in between two Krispy Kreme donuts. And it was a sandwich. Do you remember this?
Those are moments in one's life when you order that you really have to take stock and go like, okay, maybe it's time to make some changes.
Right.
I'm eating this right now.
Right.
Right.
And so then the second record we started working on.
Right. Okay. 45 minutes in. Well, hey, we don't have to be chronological. I want to actually come back to start talking about the touring, and we'll line that up with. Did you guys tour right off the bat? Were you touring in '98, or even when did that start?
We were regionally touring. Jen really took the hit on this. Like, just for the record, the reason, she's crazy enough to still be sitting here with me after 30 years, but she everything that's, seriously needed any kind of like moving forward in this van. So Jen's, not her first car, but the first car that she bought, right? Mm-hmm. The first car that she bought with her own money was a Camaro, a black Camaro. Okay, so and this was like we were playing together, but we hadn't decided like what this was going to be. We weren't thinking like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I was thinking, wouldn't that be great? But I didn't know how to do it. She didn't know how to do it. We didn't know anything about the music business. We live in a small town. So we get out of high school. A couple of years after that, she buys this black Camaro.
That was right around when Dale joined up.
Okay.
Because I remember Dale was eating rice in the back of my new Camaro, and I was all upset about it.
Who the fuck eats rice in a car? I love that. Jennifer, you're in a band with a couple of weirdos. One guy's just drinking milk. Other guy's eating bowls of rice on the road.
Well, he used to eat it on his unicycle. So
okay, that's a whole nother level of weird.
Right.
But she bought this car, and this was the first car that she bought for herself. It wasn't like a hand-me-down. It wasn't some old thing out of a junkyard that they got a good deal on. It was like, I'm buying a car.
It was still a used.
It was a used Camaro car, but it was beautiful.
It's a Camaro.
I am telling you, it was
what
beautiful.
Year?
It was immaculate. It was like a
91.
or 191.
Okay,
It was immaculate, and this was the mid-90s. So she bought that car, and a couple of years after Dale had been in the band and we built a studio and we were putting our first record out, she sold that car to buy a touring van for the band.
Wow.
So she's like as in this as anybody, and it was a 1981 white Chevy 3/4 ton panel van. Right. So there were no windows or anything. There was 2 captain's chairs in the front and no cage. No other seats, and so what we used to do.
Did you guys do the beanbag?
Pretty much. We built Dale a box to sit on.
we would literally stack Jen's rig, which was 410. Back in those days, they were like carven bass cabs, but it was like a huge bass rig. And we would put the carpet side towards the front, and that would be the wall. And then you would take like beach chairs and put them against the rig, and that's where the.
Well, remember he was sitting on that box for a long time before got
the beach chairs.
Yes. Dale tells the story now. Well, he was scared for his life for lots.
It's revenge for eating rice in your Camaro. That's
right.
I think you were like, you know what, you fuckers, I'm going to get you back. You're like, you got this van. You're like, okay, here's where you're going to sit.
Right.
Eat away, boy.
Enjoy your rice.
Rice. How's that rice now?
That was the cool body style, too, that 91 Camaro.
Oh,
yeah. It was the last year of that.
It was the last year of the one that had like it had mag wheels and it had the spoilers, all the stuff. It looked like a Z28. I forget what it was, but it was. It
was an SS.
Okay, but it was sweet looking. It wasn't like one of the cheap looking ones. It was beautiful.
Had the 5.0 liter. Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
When I was growing up, my dad had the Z28. He had like an 80 Camaro Z28, and it was like the one that was more like the Smokey and the Bandit era, right?
Yes,
like where everybody had the T-top.
Second gen.
Yeah. And so hers was still that body style, but it was, it was like the last year they did that. Mm-hmm. And
that was the Knight Rider type style, right?
No, hers was cooler than that. Hers was cooler than Knight Rider. Yeah. Like the Knight Rider ones, I actually didn't really dig those because they didn't have the spoilers where it made it look all low. And hers had the spoilers and the mag wheels. The Knight Rider one always looked like a cheap one to me. I know for those watching, I know that's not a Camaro, but it's the same kind of,
the same body type. Yeah.
Yes. So, but anyway, enough about that.
I just can't get away from the rice, and now I want to make a joke about Jennifer's car talking.
Okay, just to tell you,
put the rice down.
This is the deal. So this is who Dale was. Dale was an animal. He was a feral animal when he joined this band because he had been in this Rocksteady Posse band for years, where these guys were touring on like a Black Flag level. Does that mean anything to you guys?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so like, get in the van type thing, and they're like sleeping in the van sometimes, and like just seriously rough touring. And so he came from that world, and he was living in a warehouse because that's where drummers live, like living in a warehouse, washing up in the sink kind of guy. And so she buys this new Camaro, pulls up, it's all shiny and everything. We're going to go to rehearsal or wherever we're going. And he walks up, and he's always got a bowl of food because he's a drummer and his metabolism is spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour. So he's got this, and he's always spilling food everywhere all the time. And she pulls up in the Camaro, and he's going to get in the back of the Camaro, and he's got this bowl of food. And she's just looking at him like, are you serious? He
did. I let him. I just cleaned up after. It's still the same to this day.
Right.
Yeah, are you always having to clean up after these guys?
But the touring van now has like a rubber floor.
That's true.
It's a hard black rubber floor.
There you go.
By design.
You throw a Roomba in
Dale
there and just have it clean.
Dale has a proper bench seat with seat belts now, though. But we can hose it out after.
But yeah, the tour van now is a whole different story. It's beautiful.
But you also tour, don't you tour with 4 people? Does Devin Booth tour with you guys?
Devin has toured with us a lot. He has a real job now, so it's been a while, a couple of years. But Devin was with us in the early days, and then he took a break where he went and got a real job, and then he came back starting in 2015. He came back for a couple of years, and then he got a real job again and went back. So we about every 5 years we get Devin back.
That's cool.
We're like crossing our fingers. But yeah, sometimes we've toured so the van comfortably seats 4. It'll uncomfortably seat 5. You've got a bench seat in the back where you can put 3 people. And if we have to do that, we will. When we did the Aristocrats tour, that was not our current van now. Our current van is like a high rise. It's got like the extra high cab so you can stand up. It's more like a Sprinter kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, now it's like after years and years of jamming into a sardine can, it's like luxury. And it's, it's not even that much luxury, but it's luxury comparative to what we were living.
Sure.
But yeah, so we had, it wasn't the Chevy that she got, but we had a Ford that we got a few years after that. And it was a panel truck again with no windows in the back, and all the passengers are in the back. So they're just in like a dark can all day long, for like you're driving 6-8 hours, and they're just in.
And then you get to go play in a dark club.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So,
and then go to your dark hotel room
and this
Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah.
This reminds me, the second van we had, the Ford, we stole from the video store when we left the video store, because video stores were going out of fashion, and that video store closed. And we took the racks for the videos, which was like this kind of cage mesh material that you would hang shelving on, and we turned that into the cage of the van. So for a long time, the cage of our van was a wall from our video store that we worked at.
Yep.
Like just
all very OSHA approved. Dale did feel a little better though in that when he graduated from the box to the bolted-in back seat of an old minivan with a video store cage behind him.
Yeah. We pulled the seat out of a minivan that we had, and we bolted that into the big van so that there was a passenger seat.
I love the innovation that bands always display when they're touring and sort of building things out to.
Yeah, right.
How can we fit all of our gear and people in this box?
And then the most recent van we bought, because when we finished that, so the 2015 Aristocrats tour is the first one you saw us on, I think you mentioned, right? So
yeah.
We finished that after multiple breakdowns on that tour in that van that we were in, which is the black Ford. The
The Death Star.
The Death Star, we called it, yeah. After that tour, which was like half of my aging process over that tour was because of that freaking van. We got off that tour, and then the next tour we did on the Annika record was we were doing some dates with Andy Timmons, and it was a joint venture, kind of like with the Aristocrats. So when it's a joint venture like that, you feel more weight to make sure that everything gets where it needs to go. I mean, it's one thing if we break down and we cancel. It's another thing if there's like 10 people on the road with us and there's other bands that are with us and stuff. And then you're like, if everybody can't go get to the gig and it's on you. So we, within a week, like of this tour, we decided we're not taking that van, right? No, we're not taking that van. So Jen starts scouring the internet.
Looking for a van again. It's a part of my DNA, I think.
We drove
how
down
many
to
vans? LA. How many vans have you had at this point?
Well, we've
4?
had 3 real touring vans, like big ones, and then we've had several minivans. And if we do like a West Coast tour with like a lot of people, we'll take both of them. You know, we've done many tours where it's like we bring friends out sometimes before the NAMM show. You know, we'll do like a couple weeks before the NAMM show on the West Coast many times. And so we've done that with, like Dave LaRue, the bass player for the Steve Morse band, Dixie Dregs. He's got a solo band. They've come out with us, and, various friends, Larry Mitchell, people that we just want to hang with, that we'll do gigs with. So, but that's not like a big production. That's like, those are kind of for fun gigs, and you're throwing everybody in both vans and just making it happen.
So when was so you were kind of doing the regional stuff, and I imagine it kind of spread out to, along the Pacific, down to LA or San Diego, up to Seattle, that whole thing. And then when was your first sort of national tour when you went beyond that, when you went to the East Coast? It was
gradual, because the truth is what you just mentioned. We started spreading out, and then really Jen and I would do duo tours before we had an audience. And so before we'd take the whole band and everything, we did like remember Borders Books and Music?
Oh yeah.
So they would have music, and they were distributed by Amazon.com, and we had an Amazon distribution back then. I mean, everybody does now, but so what we would do is we would start booking Borders tours where it was just the two of us, and we would take drum backing tracks, and we would play some kind of acoustic duet stuff and some electric stuff. And that's when we started going up to Seattle and things like that. And we did that a couple times before we started taking the full thing, because we didn't want to play for nobody. And so we figured, well, if we play for nobody, at least there'll be a built-in audience there. We can try and win people over, maybe 25 people at the most, and then hopefully they'll talk to other people. And that's how we started spreading out. But the truth is, the way we really went to the East Coast first, before we hit any of the middle of the country, is we started booking clinics and things like that around gigs so that we could fly everybody on the clinic's dime. Because clinics, there was a time where, if there's one thing I'll say about a band like ours, we have an audience that's musicians, and that allows us to get help from gear companies more than maybe we should, based on the level of records we've sold. It's like, we're not Aerosmith, but there's as many musicians listening to a musician's band as maybe is listen. If you've got 1 million people listening to Britney Spears, and like 10 of them are musicians, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, you get the logic. So we would get a lot of support from gear companies. And so that's kind of how we got to the East Coast. We started doing Guitar Centers and Sam Ash's and things like that. And then we would book clubs around that. And that's how it started. So we could fly over there as a band with nothing but duffel bags and our instruments. And then if we were doing a club, what we did was started finding friends of ours, that had gigs that could loan us gear, and we could double bill with them. And that's how we really started doing that stuff on a big level. So the first big one, we did that for several years, starting around 2007, maybe.
Sure.
Does that sound right?
It's all a blur to me now.
Right. So we did a lot of those tours. We did a lot of touring as endorsers for Electro Voice and Music Man and stuff like that. And we would do, kind of in stores where Dale would play on V drums, electric drums, and things like that. And then we try and book gigs on the weekends because they want to do clinics on weekdays, and on weekends they don't because that's the busy sales days at a place like Sam Asher Guitar Center.
Mm-hmm.
So we would use this to finance to getting over there, and then and we also did the Digi Truck for a long time, which was
a big truck. And you just drove across the country in it. And
was it better than your vans though?
But wasn't nah.
It was harder to drive, man. No, I'm just kidding.
The Digi Truck was a 53-foot tractor trailer truck owned by Harman, which is JBL and Digitech and all that. And again, doing it as kind of endorsers, where they had it was a mobile stage, and they would play the parking lots of Guitar Centers and Sam Ashes and stuff like that.
Oh.
So we started doing that stuff, just like as much as we could, just to play for as many people as we could play for. And, it wasn't many people. You'd play for nobody sometimes, but you were out doing it and you were getting paid to do it to boot. So regardless of whether even some of these gigs there was an audience, as a band, we were getting better because we had to play every day, so that helped us just get our road chops together. And then when it really started to go somewhere, probably more like as far as what you're talking about, the national touring, probably around 2013 or 14, we did some East Coast runs based on what I just told you with clinics and things, but then we were starting to fill it with tours with other people. So we did Tony MacAlpine for a couple weeks, and then can't remember if we did something with Mike around that time, maybe Keneally.
Yeah, I think so. Mike Keneally and Dave LaRue Band. And
yeah, so we started pooling our resources.
And so how did those relationships cultivate? Did that come through some sort of management, or was that sort of based on that you were kind of working with the same companies with the gear sponsorships and all that? Or
well, it's interesting because this is a really good for people to hear, I think, that are trying to do this, because the honest truth is I have to be careful.
Uh-oh, what's the honest truth?
Well, I have to be careful how I word this because I don't want to. I mean, we bust our asses and we just play the best music that we can try and play. That doesn't mean it's best for everybody. But if you start really trying to hone your craft and do something well, other people that are doing that start to notice you, and you start becoming familiar to those people, and they're familiar to you, and so. Nobody said, you're looking at the management of this band, really, for the last, 25 years or whatever it is. I mean, we've had people help. We have a great booking agency, Blue Mouth Promotions, that helps us. But, it's still 90% us. Mm-hmm. And then they'll take some of the weight off or help us get into some places where, it's just too much to organize. And you need help sometimes, But the truth is that we started being friends with people because you were around them all the time, and they were paying attention to what we were doing, and we were paying attention to what they were doing. And
it's ultimately a very small world.
Yeah.
As you guys probably understand the music business, and word gets around if you're easy to work with. What? Easy to work with and have resources like a van and backline and things like this. So that's kind of how those relationships started.
The other thing, and Dale likes to tell this a lot because he's the kind of the unbiased guy, because we're pretty much the business aspect of the band. But there's a thing that would happen with guys that were, say, quote unquote rock stars or in that world, where maybe they had a gig where they were playing with somebody big for a long time, and then they wanted to do something on their own, or maybe the gig came to an end and they were forced to be their own artist or things like that. And you get a lot of guys like that you would think know every single thing about the music business and have never done any like down and dirty Black Flag touring in the van stuff, right? And so when those guys all of a sudden have to run the show, they don't really know how to do it. And so a lot of our friendships were through knowing how to do it, and guys would see all the stuff we're doing, going, how are you doing all this stuff? I mean, I wouldn't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I've had phone calls from guys that would astonish you that are like, how are you guys doing this? Like, how are you guys getting all these gigs? How did you guys just do a national tour and play and sell out theaters? You know, it's how are you doing that with this music? And the truth is, we've just been doing it for so long, and we've figured out how to do it. You know, and it's there's no trick. It's just like any other really complex job. You just kind of have to learn how to do everything.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason you see us out there with a lot of really great players is sometimes those guys haven't had to do that. You know, sometimes they're part of another package for years and years and years, and then they're not, or they're saying maybe I want to try and do something on my own or whatever it is, you know. And so that's been what do you got there? Is that? Oh, this is my thumb drive.
Oh, nice. That's literal.
So
it actually has fingerprints on it, and that creeps me out. Whose fingerprints are on this thumb drive?
I always said if you commit a murder and you put those all over the murder scene, somebody that works at like Intel is going to get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to find some guy that works at Intel. Or, I don't know. That's a company, right?
SanDisk, probably.
SanDisk.
Yeah.
So like for instance, on the last Aristocrats tour, you know, these are all like grassroots type of scenarios. Jen tour managed the whole thing.
I did, and that is why I look as old as I do now. No offense, Brian Beller.
but
I think Brian Beller is using Just for Men. He just he looks too good. He looks amazing, and I'm really jealous of his hair too.
As the tour manager, I am not allowed to divulge any backstage secrets of Brian Beller's.
Let me tell you about a conversation I had with Brian Beller, and I've had this conversation about that conversation probably 3 times in the last 2 weeks because it comes up. No, Brian won't mind this.
Oh.
You know, here's the thing. Like, you know, we love Brian, and sometimes, you know, I mean, I don't want to get strange here, but you hug your brother when you're on the road every once in a while.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, you have the softest, best smelling hair of anybody I've ever met in my life. You know,
Sarah's
and I'm like,
amazing.
It's amazing. And
Really
so I had this conversation one day. I said, what are you using? And he goes, I don't know, if maybe he does not want to give the secrets away, but I think he just goes, it's just the cheap stuff. It's like VO5 or something. It's like what you get at the dollar store.
Yep.
But he uses a bunch of it, and then he puts a little on afterwards, and that's the secret.
That's the trick, yes.
Right?
It's just not fair to be that good and have that kind of hair.
That beautiful, luscious.
It's just not fair. So, you know, the Aristocrats, you guys toured, and, you know, I think so how many tours have you done? 2?
We've done 4, but
4? Holy
2
shit.
full North American tours, but we've done 4 tours.
Pretty much been touring with them on all their albums then?
That's correct.
Wow, that's
yeah,
so
but
cool.
they haven't done everything with us because, you know, it comes down to what's feasible for both of us, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The last 2 big U.S. tours have been phenomenal because everybody got to a point where the numbers were working and we could do it. And we would do it forever if we could do it that way. But the thing is, like the very first tour was an experiment. So we were there the night they formed, and we didn't even see that happen. We talked to Brian about it at dinner after that happened.
What year was that? When was that?
I don't know. Is it?
They just celebrated the 10-year anniversary, so it was 2011.
So you guys knew them, or you knew Brian, or at least some of them, kind of before the whole Aristocrats thing actually came to be.
We knew Brian the night that they formed. We didn't know Marco or Guthrie, and Guthrie was kind of this new guy that was starting to get attention. And it's funny because I watch some of these tour blog videos that we've done, and I hear Guthrie's music in the background in the van before we knew them, because that record was jumping around. His first one
was that Erotic
Cakes,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like some of the most inspiring guitar playing I'd heard in 25 years, and so I was like, what is this guy? And I didn't know anything about him, and I saw videos of him, but I'd never heard him speak or anything. I didn't know anything about him, and I just thought he was like some Oregon hippie. Like when I saw him, he had his hair pulled back in a ponytail, and he had this beard, and it was like, I just saw videos of him. I'm like, look at this guy. Like, where's he from? He's like out in the sticks somewhere.
Turns out he's a British hippie.
Turns out he's very
British hippie,
educated and very well spoken.
Yeah.
But
his
but
stories
yeah,
are the best.
I didn't know
love when he
anything
tells the
about him.
stories.
Yeah, but so Brian, we knew Brian though because Brian had written an article on us for Bass Player Magazine or something like that, right? So that was for our live DVD that came out in 2007, I think.
Well, I was introduced to Brian via Doug Johns at a NAMM show, and I think that was, around 2009, or probably the 2010 NAMM show.
Okay. But he had done an article, like a review of a DVD that we did in 2007.
That was 2009.
2009?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, the producer remembers. That's why she's here, because I can't remember anything anymore. Including the songs. When we get on stage, you see me looking at her like, is this right? Am I right? And she thinks I'm looking at her like you made a mistake. But really, I'm looking over going, am I wrong? Are you right? Am I wrong? I can't. Anyway. So we knew Brian a little bit from that, and then we every year at the NAMM show we go to, is it JT Schmid's? I think it's the restaurant, and it's where they had the bass bash every year, and he was doing a bass bash, and he's not really a solo bass guy, so he had put this band together, and originally it was supposed to be Marco and Greg Howe. And Greg Howe had to back out for something else that he was doing, and so this guy Guthrie was floating around the internet. And Brian, as the story goes, Brian got in touch with him, and he came and did the thing, and was phenomenal. And everybody lost their mind seeing these guys. And there's still a YouTube of that first gig. It's just like in the corner of a restaurant. And
was that and did he? When you say he got in touch with Guthrie, was he over in England still, or was he in the States?
I think he lives over in England, so I imagine he was there. Yeah,
he just flew in for the NAMM thing. And
he was doing showcase. A lot of clinic touring at the time. Mm-hmm. And getting his record out that way. But so Brian came out of that thing, and we were sitting around with him having drinks. I was drinking milk, and
I was drinking whiskey,
almond milk to be specific. And Brian goes, I just played with this band, and I think we have to be a band. There's something going on, and so. That was the first time, I don't even know if he had talked to anyone about that before that, but he was like, there's something happening here, and I think we have to be a band. And so anyone that really knows Brian, he is a powerhouse when it comes to getting things done. He is, Mr. Organization. So
he's the spreadsheet king.
Yes. There's no secret that Brian loves his spreadsheets. In fact, I was at a Joe Satriani concert, and Joe Satriani announced him that way in front of, 12,000 people. He goes, our current bass player loves spreadsheets, and it's Brian Beller. So anyway, so Brian had talked about this band, and and then we talked later in the month after the NAMM show, and they were going to maybe try and do some test gigs. And so they booked a gig up in San Francisco, and Jen and I went up and saw it at this little club called Biscuits and Blues. And then he was like, I'd like to try and do a little run, maybe just like 5 gigs to see how it goes. And so we did that. And then they did like an East Coast version of that. And at that time, much like us, there wasn't any Midwestern, they didn't want to. It's hard to drive through the tundra when you don't have a following yet.
Yeah, right.
So they flew to the East Coast and they did a run over there, and then and so we had done that first little run like a week or something like that, a week and a half, and that was, by the way, the ice run. Yeah, I think
that was
we did it in January, and it was like
Colorado and Wyoming. And
such. Yeah. Like we drove like 13-hour days through black ice on this tour because we were in the middle of a blizzard, and we had to get to the gig. It was like, this is the worst. But so we did that tour, and then the next tour was I can't remember. We had like a short tour and then a longer. Oh, we did like the Western States. That's the ice tour. So we did a week with them in California. And then the next time we went out, we did the Western States. And then they did the Far East on that tour without us because it wasn't feasible to do everybody. And then
the Far East?
Well, the Far Eastern
So they
United
flew to
States.
China.
Right.
Right. And then we did the 2015 tour you saw, which was the biggest undertaking for any of us at that point. It was like, okay, let's really try and do North America, and let's go out and hit it. And
but did you tour? Did you go to Texas with them before that year? Because I think I saw you probably twice that year. I saw you here in Threadgills and up in New York, but I think I saw you before that.
The Western states, I think, we might have done that.
So maybe I saw you then, yeah.
Right? Like we did kind of like the West, a lot of the Southwest.
Okay.
We did like the West Coast and a lot of the Southwest on that tour.
Did Threadgills close?
It did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Eric Johnson came to that show, by the way.
That's so cool. It's great. Eric Johnson pops on stage with so many. I've seen him get on stage with Dweezil Zappa twice. Hopped on stage with Osnoy. Saxon's so amazing, and I'm pretty sure I saw you guys there.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I think it was. And it happens a lot when just get these insane bands playing. You're like, I can't believe like 100 people in here, and this is just nuts, you know?
Right. Well, and there's good and bad to that. It tells you the state of music too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an iconic place, but but it is crazy because, you guys, Aristocrats, Osnoy with Anton Fig, it was Tony MacAlpine played. Man, poor Tony MacAlpine, dude. All their gear got stolen when before that show. They were playing on other people's gear that night.
So we did the tour with Tony before that.
Okay.
That was the second kind of tour that he did where he was kind of going out and really trying to hit doing solo stuff, because it's been years since he had done solo stuff when we did those first dates with him.
I wonder if he was playing with Planet X. I know he was toured with Vi for a while too.
Well, yeah, he was in Vi's band. He was in Planet X. He was doing a lot of stuff with other people, but doing a Tony MacAlpine tour.
Yeah, because his albums were back from the late '80s and early '90s when he was doing the solo stuff. So
we did the 2014 tour with him on the East Coast, and then we continued our own tour out of that. But so we did a really short run with the Aristocrats. We did the Western states with them. Then we did 2015 with them, and then the last tour you saw last year, or 2019 tour, was coming back and doing North America again on their latest record and our latest record. And that was...
Oh, yeah. No, that's shit, man. I've seen you 4 times. That was at Dirty Dog here. And I remember thinking, what a weird place to have the Aristocrats. It's kind of a dingy-ass little rock bar. But that's right.
You do what you got to do, right?
You do what you got to do. Yeah, that fucking place closed too, man. And we all loved that at the whole rock scene here. I mean, it was kind of struggling a bit, but pandemic killed it. So... I'm
hoping that there's somebody that comes along like a new Bill Graham that buys all these places up. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be all these out of business venues when this stuff gets done, right? And maybe there's somebody that comes along that has the resources and the business sense to like turn these into something great again. And maybe when you can tie a bunch of venues together, then you can tour easier because you're dealing with one guy, not 400 guys.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
So I think regionally you might see that kind of thing happen. Maybe you get like these, 200-300 seat venues, and maybe somebody like gets like a region of them and turns them into something. I mean, that's my dream. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'd like to see all that stuff come back, and maybe come back in a more organized and sensible way, because, venues they run the gamut. There's no college for venue or owners and promoters. So there's some great ones and there's some horrific ones, right? So
yeah, we can hope that, that's the hope, is that coming through this, and there's going to be a craving for live music. Yeah. And so hopefully some new places will open and become new iconic places, because so many have gone under. I've been to San Francisco. I had never been until a few years ago, and I've been there a handful of times, and went to what was that place called? I want to say Slim's, but I don't know if that's right. And it closed, and I was so glad I got to go. It was such a cool place.
That was our last San Francisco gig, was Slim's.
Yeah. So it's a bummer seeing all that happen. But yeah, you're right. Hopefully some new stuff will happen. And man, I didn't even really think of that in terms of, if you've got someone that's got a chain of them, or not a chain, but a hand and all that, it makes it a lot easier to string a tour together. Because DIY booking of a tour is extremely difficult.
Awful, yeah.
Yeah. Very,
Jen
very
was the
tough.
first one to book our band back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one, like I said, she was the one really taking the reins. And
She looks
that was-
thrilled about it.
Yeah.
That's the worst job. Yeah,
It sucks.
Yeah, it really does.
I literally remember her.
I chose accounting over the booking. That's how much booking sucks. Because accounting ain't no bag of roses either.
Yeah,
Well,
but
some
when
people
you're
like Brian Beller probably loves it, right?
Well, yes, that's true. Right. We've had lots of spreadsheet discussions,
Hey man, spreadsheets become your best friend.
I know.
I'm a pretty big spreadsheet guy myself. I still don't adhere to them necessarily well and get shit done like I should. But hey, I got a lot of spreadsheets to look at. I know what I'm
There you
supposed
go.
to do at least.
Right.
I remember back in the early days when Jen would be having to call a guy when the club closed, like you'd call a guy at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning and talk to a guy after they, because they're like, call me at the end of the night kind of thing when they're not busy.
Yeah.
It was just like so bad.
So bad.
We-
So we've been really fortunate to work with BMP now because they take on the lion's share of those bigger tours for us, and yeah, it's just and now Travis does the booking for the little in between things, and thank you.
The thing about people ask, again, going back to people trying to do this, and same thing with booking is people ask about this, our booking agent, it's like, it's a booking agent. Oh, it's and they wouldn't mind me saying this. It's like a brother-sister team that love music. That's what it is. And it's anybody that ever wants to be involved with music, it's way easier to be involved with music in any other way than being a musician. It's like if you want to do something, musicians are clamoring for help all the time. It's like if you want to be a tech or you want to be a road manager or you want to be a booking agent or a manager or any of that stuff, we're like, yes, please help us. What I mean? And people don't realize that. So they think, wow, how'd you get that manager? Or how do I, and we went from with BMP, the people that we deal with booking wise, we've, I don't think they would mind me saying in a lot of ways together kind of built a thing to where now they're dealing with artists coming to them going, how do I get in with them? How do I get these guys to look at my music and stuff? And they're booking these artists that they're, it's like, how did we get this guy? And that guy was asking like how to get them, and again, it's just a couple of people that love music. That's all it is, and we started doing these shows at the NAMM show every year, the X Jam, and we've got, like the original Zappa band, and we've got Tony MacAlpine, and we've got Andy Timmons, and all these guys playing with us, Paul Gilbert, like all these people.
Paul Gilbert's really tall.
Yeah, if you want somebody to make Jen feel even smaller, you get a guy like Paul Gilbert.
Oh my word!
That's 6'5" or something.
Is he
Standing in a
really that
circle.
tall?
He's really tall. He makes me feel
meeting him at a
tiny,
show.
and I'm pretty tall.
Wow.
I mean, I make her look really tiny, and he makes her look like mini-me. He's like, but that's the thing is, it's just people, and that's what. So you asked about how do we join up with all these bands, going way back to the original question. It's just people, and at some point, so when you're a kid, you think there's this bubble, and in a way there is, but the bubble is basically. Are you somebody, are you a crazy person? Are you our actual musician? It's those kind of boundaries, and everybody has to have those kind of boundaries.
Yep.
Because there's always people you don't necessarily want around you. I mean,
I think that's got to be the hardest thing to crack into any of that, because anyone who's had any sort of success, you'll realize that you're going to get those kind of people, and you've got to at some point have some sort of like barriers, right? Or
right.
walls.
But when
or
you're in the public eye as a living,
yeah.
even if it's on a small level like us, we're just this little, kind of grassroots fusion band or whatever. But you're still in the public eye. You're still marketing yourself, and people are watching your face and everything. And so people perceive that a certain way. And when there's something broken in them, sometimes it gets a little over the top, rambunctious, and you do have to create some kind of a barrier. But the truth is that all these guys, it's just a respect. And the one thing I can say about us is I mean, we're still those two kids in high school that are still doing all this ourselves. And to us, there's nothing, I don't want to say there's nothing special about it because it's special, but it's like, there's nothing like, we're just us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just a couple of schmoes from the Central Coast of California that are trying to figure out how to play music. And we're still doing that. We're still trying to figure out how to write cool songs and play stuff that we want to play. That's all it is. And so, when you get things like Full Circle, a couple of years ago when the Dixie Dregs did their kind of farewell tour, and I'm playing on like the third to last show encore with them at invitation from Steve Morse.
Yeah.
I mean, that happened. I'm not making that up. It happened. And so how does the 16-year-old Travis Larson rationalize that? You just go, because I've never went to LA. We never lived in a big city. We never went to music school. We've just been here figuring out how to do this, figuring out how to use gear, figuring out how to play our instruments, playing the music we want to hear, to the best of our ability. And so, I guess the answer to your question is you just do it long enough. And if you do something that kind of gets you in the bubble, so to speak,
mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just hanging around long enough too.
Yeah.
Hanging around long enough and doing something that hopefully people perceive as good, to where they don't think you're just, some guy playing in his garage versus somebody that's really trying to put a serious record out,
Right. That's great. It's great to hear that. It's really encouraging to it just shows that having that passion and drive and working hard can pay off, and I mean, obviously, you're fantastic musicians. I mean, it's I mean, you have a right to be there. And I think that's what you're saying is it is a mutual respect. I mean, it's probably got to be the way in that with any kind of creative forces and people in music. And this always astounds me, and it's so cool. It's kind of like talking to you right now. It's like, so many of my friends are musicians and people I've met over the years that I play with and I've, shared recordings with and done whatever, right? And I'm going like, Jesus, man, you're so beyond me. But it's not so much that as it is like you're all in this same thing. You all do this same thing, and there's a mutual respect that comes from that and being creative and playing music and being passionate about music and playing it for the right reasons. So to me, like, it totally makes sense. And it's just, it's just a progression getting there. Right.
Everybody we play with is way beyond us.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's just absolutely.
I mean, well, you're literally, we're sitting here literally talking about like the greatest players in the world. I mean, how many Guthrie Govins are there? I mean, it's
right.
Crazy.
It's pretty ridiculous. But, I mean, I remember, you should tell the LaRue story a little bit, just because, like, to come from that, like the very first Dregs show we ever went to, we hung around the loading dock door.
You have to tell it, because I always get it wrong, because I said it wrong in the first place, and then when I try to tell the story, I say it the way it was supposed to be said, and then it's not funny.
Okay, so just remember, I'm trying to give her time.
Yeah. Well, you've been talking all this time. Might as well keep going.
I just trying to give you your time.
My word.
See how
sounds
it is,
like you
guys?
should put this story down on a spreadsheet so you can.
Right. Then I'll understand it better.
Well,
good idea.
Jen was so we're standing around and Dave LaRue comes out and he's kind of hanging around in the loading dock of this theater, and Jen's literally too scared to talk to him even.
You were too.
Yeah, but I'm not a bass player.
Okay.
So he walks away, and she like gets angry at herself, like that, like you do, and she's like huffing and puffing. She's like, turns around, walks up the street after him, and comes up and taps him on the shoulder and goes, "You're my biggest fan."
That's
true.
awesome.
This is a true story
great.
that happened. I can picture it now. I even remember the jacket he was wearing. Like,
Right.
And so to go from that to like,
Well, and then I went, I'm your biggest, that.
No, I think what happened there
and then I ran away crying.
I think we're actually finding the secret to your success. You've literally just walked up to people and used reverse psychology and been like,
Pretty
"You
much,
love our
yeah.
band. I'm great."
Right.
God damn it,
Right.
I guess you are.
Well, we know how that works these days. Apparently, that's how you do it, right?
Yeah.
You just tell people,
Hey, I'm a genius. I guess he's a genius. Oh, don't get me fucking started. Don't get me. This has been about you. We've been very mature. Yep. Okay.
So she did that, and to go from that to, staying at Dave's house on tour when we're in Florida and knowing, his wife and his kid and being actually really close friends and keeping up with each other. When the pandemic started, we called each other. Are you doing okay? How's it going? Is everybody all right? How's your dad? To go from that to, I'm your biggest fan. You're my biggest fan. It's like,
whatever. Bye. That's kind of how it went.
So those kind of
scurry
things.
down the street, squeaking down the street.
Right.
Right. So there's the description in my mind to that, and I'll let I'll see what your opinion is, but I kind of feel like there's two people now. Like those people are all people, and you become friends with them, and they become people. And then, like, if you're sitting at home doing a DVD night or something, you watch a concert or an old concert or something, or you're playing with them and you watch their set, then they're that guy. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you're looking at them and you're like, oh yeah, that's why. Mm-hmm. That's why. That was what I originally I was chills. Yeah. I was like, this guy's like Steve Morse is my god. And it's like greatest player in the world ever. This guy, he's so ridiculous, and his compositions and everything about him. He's like the muscle tee, and he's so cool. And it's like everything about this guy. And to go from that to just like sitting around having hamburgers with him, then there's that guy. And that guy ceases to exist when he walks under the lights and all of a sudden you hear his guitar and you go, oh, he's that guy again. And so the thing that you have to combat is when you get on stage with that guy.
Right.
And then you have to become your guy. And Billy Joel said a thing years and years ago, an odd reference, I know, but he said, when you get on stage, you're a rock star, and you have to become a rock star. You have to believe it. And if you don't believe it, they won't believe it. And everyone kind of that performs understands what that means, whether it's just focusing things out or whatever it is. But you get up there and you turn off that other part. And if you don't, then you're going to suck, and then you're not really in it. So you have to.
I really want to make an 80s movie reference here, and certainly this movie working at a video store and being familiar with all the 80s classics. It makes me think of Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. It's just like when you get on stage, you got to turn that trucker hat around backwards. Get focused.
I don't even know that reference. You must.
How do you not know a movie about a guy that arm wrestles for the custody of his son? Come on now, Jennifer.
Right?
Sorry.
I'm disappointed in you.
I'm sorry.
Not only that, right next to, so he drove big trucks, and right next to the horn pulling chain, he had the workout chain on the spring where he would exercise his arm.
Okay. Anyway.
That was the arm wrestling movie.
Right. Okay.
That's a good one. Yeah, I know, right? I mean, to me, in my mind, I'm thinking like you're watching, or you're playing with whoever, your idols, and you've hung out and you're on tour with them, and they're playing, and you're like, wow, that's my friend, that's the dude, holy shit. And then they get off stage and they watch you and you're like, I can't believe that guy ate a fucking burger with Krispy Kreme donut buns. Like,
right.
There's two.
That's what they're thinking when they watch us. Yes, definitely.
There's two sides to that. I'll talk about it in a second. But first of all, do you have a moment where we played with somebody where it was just completely jacking you up?
Every time. Yes. What are you talking about?
Like where you just couldn't make it happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time. Why, are you thinking of something specific?
No, I'm asking. I'm just,
Like, what do you mean? Like you're nervous because of the caliber?
Because of what you're playing with. Yeah. Who you're playing with, or even if it's them. Like, I remember us opening for we did, 90 or no, 06, 05, 06. They had the Steve Morse Band opening for the Dixie Dregs tour, and we opened for the Steve Morse Band. So it was our band, Steve Morse Band, and the Dixie Dregs, which is way too much music, by the way. By the end of that show, the audience is like, I can't take anymore, But I remember her and I at that, and that was the first time, like, we looked over and Steve and Dave were standing at the side of the stage watching.
Right.
And I was like, that was one of those where you had to completely don't lose your shit now. You need to pay attention and focus on what's going on, or else you're just going to start sucking,
And throwing up.
Yeah. But the opposite to that is the guy that's, say, 10 times more famous, but you don't necessarily have musical respect for him. And that I find very entertaining. like for some reason I just start laughing, and she'll like shut me down. Like I'll come over and I'll start like saying jokes in her ear and stuff like while we're on stage. She'll be like, stop that, because she'll start getting distracted. And I can't, of course you can't say any of those bands, but there's been some bands that were standing there right under us watching us, you know, where you're just like, just imagine any 80s band that would be hilarious when you're doing a gig and they're standing there watching you. And I'm like, in my mind, I find this so hilarious right now. This is so funny.
Because you know CC DeVille's like, what is he playing? I wish I could do that.
I didn't say it.
You filled in the blank, and that's a
yeah. No, hey, it's for me to say, not you. What I don't have relationships. It doesn't matter. If I did, I'm burning them all with this podcast. So
right, but to me that's always very, in my own little twisted mind, I find that stuff so funny.
Yeah.
You know, like there's stories that I can't tell, but
let's I mean, we'll get to that second album eventually, but let's talk. Let's talk gear for a minute. What do you? So you said Music Man. You play Music Man guitars, Ernie Ball strings, or is that a whole big thing that you do with Ernie Ball?
Yeah, since 2001, you can see cool. That's one of Jen's basses right there. Look, I can actually point at it like it's like a little bass.
It's like I can
like a little
touch it.
Well, this is really cool because I can actually well, I say always, but sometimes at the beginning of the podcast, we'll like to thank our friends at, you know, blah, 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 and Ernie Ball, Godin Guitars, Ernie Ball, and I've got my Ernie Ball strings back there, but have Ernie Ball artists on the show. It's great.
Well, we used to be on those strings, but they changed the names every few years. So, but we had a long tenure where we were on those strings, and then they started getting a little hipper. Like they started, you know, a little more like kind of the, I don't know who's on there, but a little more like the Blink 182s or whoever's, you know, but for a long time it was us and guys like, you know, Morris and Albert Lee, Tony Levin, Steve Lukather, like, you know, and we were on there for like a decade.
That's awesome, man.
And then all of a sudden it got a little hipper, but that's okay. It's okay. You know, we still have plenty of those packs locked away in an action packer back here. We can.
I want to play one of those pairs of strings. Signature. Where can I get those?
Those
locked
pairs
away
of
in the
strings.
vault. Those pairs.
Right.
What gauge do you use?
Do you just play like the 2-string?
Yeah,
instrument?
I just play metal. Like I just play power chords. I tear off the top ones. I don't need that shit.
I have my pair of strings. I tune it to A demolished.
What I do is I just put the 2 E strings on, and that's I have a very unique style. Everything I play sounds like the beginning of Stonehenge. Basically,
it's an octave.
Yes.
So we've been playing Ernie Ball since 2001, which this is an interesting endorsement story going back to doing music for a living, but Ernie Ball used to do this contest where you could send a demo, and Jen always used to do this back in the 90s, like starting way back, where we would send in cassettes and, you know, like a bio of your band and all this stuff and try and get like a deal. And I think it was a deal and a set on
press kit.
And people could read about it in a guitar magazine, an actual physical magazine.
But she was trying to get us a deal there for years, and sending stuff for this contest and trying to get us on the Warped tour, which would have been horrific for our band, right? Like the stupidest thing ever. But and so this goes back to that thing of reality is that we got approached by them when we were playing a gig that was high enough profile to get approached. Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to. And so you always have to put yourself in the other person's shoes, whether it's the venue or the endorser or any of that. But never be a guy that sits around and says, I'm a great guitar player, I should have endorsements.
Yeah, the bedroom guy. Well, so what, right? I mean, maybe nowadays if you got a YouTube channel and 1 billion people watch your videos, so it's a little different. But in the typical model is you got to get out there and perform and, you know, tour and all that. And yeah, it's so true. And I you know, from someone that's been going to NAMM shows for several years now too, like you see those guys and it's almost like they just walk around a NAMM show trying to get a bunch of I'm endorsed by this, and what does that even mean, right? Yeah. It's like I want to play gear that I want to play, and like you said, it's about you. What are you offering in return, you know? And so, yeah, exactly.
I bet none of those guys have endorsements from Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's
in
what
fact,
you guys should have. You should have an endorsement from Milk. Not even a company, just Milk.
well, we used to get a lot of people saying Subway. You
Subway,
guys should hit Subway and Motel 6 up.
Right.
Motel
Yeah,
6.
because that was a
Could you
thing.
imagine free sandwiches and rooms?
Oh, dude, the
That'd
food
be
would be
awesome.
the best. Food would be the best.
Yeah.
Like we had
Right.
done when I did a festival here. Like we had one of our bass player at the time like worked at this place called Juice Land, and so then when we toured and they provided a bunch of juice, which was amazing because I was
That
playing
place
like
is great.
running this whole and I was running the whole like show in this big thing, and I played in several bands, so I was like exhausted. I did 2 bands back to back, pretty like fast, demanding metal type stuff. And I got off like at the end of the night, and I just went back, and there was coolers of these big jugs of juice. And
Nice.
I think it saved my life. And the next, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but the next day I woke up and I peed like red, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's right," because I drank an entire jug of beet juice last night. So.
Oh,
But anyway, when we toured not too long after that, we actually had a deal with them, and they sent us a whole bunch of juice on the road, which is awesome, man. So I think if you got a food deal, like that would be amazing, right?
By the way, Beet Juice, my favorite Pro Tools plugin.
Oh, beet juice is amazing, yeah.
Right?
The auto tune is second to none on that.
It's
on
so-
that
it's
beet
so
juice.
fluid,
Yeah,
you know?
It's so good. It's so good. That's what I use on my voice to try to make. Pretty soon there's going to be a Pro Tools plugin called Vic, and that's just going to make your voice badass.
yeah.
Yeah, the Vic plugin. I'm going to plug into the Vic plugin. It adds that rich.
Damn, this is good stuff. I really want to get an endorsement deal. So Ernie Ball was your first company that you got on with. Camaro days.
Camaro Day. I had a little write-up in Bass Player magazine, so Garvin got in touch and offered us, our first endorsement deal, which was cool. We used it. We had it.
Yeah, we backlined our entire band with that
Awesome.
endorsement deal at that time. And that was her first press, and she was the first one to have any like real press, honestly. I mean, we had local newspapers and stuff, but she did it was kind of like the Bass Player magazine version of like the Spotlight. Like what Mike Varney used to have, Mike Varney's Spotlight back in the Guitar Player magazine days, or Guitar World or something like that. And so she did that, but it was the Bass Player one. And it's great because if you see the picture of that, is that for me?
I was trying to mask this for myself.
She got in that before any of us, and you see the picture of it, and she's like, we're so uncool. She's wearing like my leather jacket, which is like 3 sizes too big for her, in that picture.
I didn't have my own leather jacket yet.
Right?
Yet.
Yeah. We were so young, we didn't have our own leather jacket.
Rock stars in training.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's cool about that I just saw that magazine today because for some reason I was in the file cabinet. We have like the record company office here. So I was in the file cabinet today and I saw that, and we have, all the old magazines preserved.
Right.
And Dave LaRue has a full page in that magazine.
Oh, man.
And it was like right next to yours, I think. It was like an ad for whatever his amp was back then. But it's so funny.
And it just said,
like,
"I'm her biggest fan."
Right.
Exactly.
I should get him to put that in there. That's great.
Yeah, get him to sign it.
Yeah. Anyways, Music Man has been an amazing company to work with. They're here. They're in San Luis Obispo, which
Really?
turned out to be
okay.
odd. We didn't realize that. And
Well, that was the thing was Eddie Van Halen was a Music Man guy in those early days. That was the first real signature Eddie Van Halen guitar. Like he put his name on some Kramers and things like that. But the first guitar he really designed, which is the litmus for all the other guitars that he's doing, up until he passed away, was the Ernie Ball Music Man version. And so there were all these local newspaper articles like Eddie Van Halen in San Luis Obispo. I'm like, why is Eddie Van Halen in San Luis Obispo, like our little town here? And, he's like jamming at the local club and all this stuff. And it's like, what is going on? And it was because Ernie Ball was here. And, we never put any of that together. But, and then long before we had that, we were huge Steve Morse fans. And I had no idea that Steve Morse was like basically after Eddie Van Halen, he was the first signature guitar endorser at Ernie Ball. And so my favorite guitar player of all time is the biggest signature endorser at this company that's in our town that we end up getting a deal with. So it's almost, that kind of stuff is kind of like fate when you say, how do you become close with these guys? Because of course we became close with Steve because of Ernie Ball events. I mean, that, you're at these events with this guy and all this starts to happen over time. But he was my favorite guitar player long before that, and long before I knew.
Well, I remember that from that guitar. Are you talking about that blue one?
Yeah.
From way back. So when was that, in the 80s or something?
That was like 87.
Wow. Yeah, because Eddie Van Halen was, those Music Mans came in, around maybe the, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, or was he doing that?
Yeah, that was like 91-ish.
Yeah, right, when he started doing those.
But Steve, it was basically when High Tension Wires came out, which I want to say was like 87, 88. It could have been 89. I could be wrong about that. But that was before, that was like, he was actually flying full-time at that point. He had given up music, and he was a full-time pilot for Delta.
Who? Steve Morse?
Steve Morse, yeah.
What the fuck? I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, because, I mean, this is like telling old Hollywood stories in a way, but just to pass the story along, he was doing a Kansas gig at an arena in the town that his, airline was based, and a bunch of people from the airline went to the show, and they were like, Captain Morris is on stage playing guitar with Kansas.
Wow.
Like he was they overlapped there for a minute, And,
yeah.
But I mean, he was obviously big before that for years and years and years, but he got kind of sick of trying to negotiate the music business for a while.
He got sick of trying to book shows.
Exactly.
Can't imagine why. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was not good at spreadsheets. That was his big downfall.
Right. So, but anyway, that company being involved with that guy before we ever knew that company was even a thing, when we weren't even, I was a Steve Morse fan before we even knew about endorsement deals, before we were trying to even really do this. We were just playing music because we love music. And, it was like, what is this guy? This guy's amazing, and what is this music? And so all that stuff coming together in a weird way to where you're just kind of in the right place sometimes, And
yeah.
That's what everybody always says. It's the right place at the right time, but you have to be prepared. And,
sure.
It wasn't like, we still haven't ever gotten a break, quote unquote, because there aren't really any breaks for rock fusion bands in America in the last 3 decades or two decades,
Right. Have you ever considered being Britney Spears' backing band? Is that?
Well, she hasn't called us, but
She's not returning those emails.
Right.
Just one day, y'all just sit around with your fingers crossed. One day. But the funny thing is, how many? Cause, you mentioned Greg Howe earlier. Didn't he tour with Justin Timberlake? A lot of these.
I was going to bring that up actually when you mentioned
toured with those bands.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And one thing that I don't know if I'm proud of this, but it's an interesting point, is that we've never done anything like that. Like in this band, we've just always played in this band. And that's like always all we've ever done. And, you gotta have to have some pride in that on some level.
It is.
Right?
It's very cool. You're leaving your mark and your stamp and your music, and that's really cool. And it's not like, it's like when I saw you guys, it was like the Travis Larson Band, and I'm like, I know these people from that band and their music, not like, oh, that's the bass player that played with so-and-so and then played with so. No, that's fine. And a lot of people do. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is cool. I think I think some musicians have a very distinct identity, and other ones are sort of you're more of a session guy or a,
right.
What's the word I'm looking for? Whatever.
We blame everything that has held us back in our careers on a bad band name.
Yes. Travis Larson. For the love of God.
Honestly, it's like
I win. I top you, dude. I named my band a good. No, I named my band a Good Rogering. It's terrible.
Good Rogering.
Yeah, so you don't have to feel that much shame.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're in a band called the Travis Larson Band and you're playing in Austin and nobody knows the band and they see the name of it,
they'll probably go.
The prog guys are not looking at this and going, I'm going to go check this guitar player out. But everybody else is like, Travis Larson Band, that sounds like a good band.
Right.
a good time.
Right, you guys are touring. You're touring through the country, booking all these little venues, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Wait, hey, so the Texas Rodeo wants to book us. It's really,
I know.
really straight."
You know, right?
And then they just boo the shit out of you for having musicality and not say. You're like, he hadn't. It's the third song, and he hasn't said boots once. Boo! Get out of here, Travis Larson.
Right.
We play both kinds, country and western.
Country and oh yeah, man. It's like, oh boy, there's the chicken wire. Well, this is going to be a night. Here's the favorite of the horn section.
Right.
Got to be careful. This could just become any show at any moment could just become a quote of Blues Brothers or
Right.
Spinal Tap.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've done many, many, many shows like that to this day. I mean, even on our last tour, the last our 20th anniversary tour we did right before the Aristocrats. We did a lot of those gigs.
Yeah.
Chicken wire
I got lost. You were talking about the reference shows, and then you changed it into shows. So now I'm like, what? Are we talking about chicken wire or references? Right
Oh,
now?
sorry.
No, he's marrying the two. So apparently you have actually played. We're actually interviewing a band that has played Bob's Bunker. This is amazing.
Nice.
Many times, right?
I can't tell you how many times we've played Bob's Bunker. I mean,
Fights.
when you're playing,
You're the Travis Larson Band.
we'll play anywhere. And here's the thing about it. Sometimes when you're playing those gigs that you have really low expectations and it's a Tuesday night and you're in, like, what's the name of that town? We played some town in Ohio last time on our tour. And it was one of the best gigs of the tour. That was a great gig. Mm-hmm. But then you play places where you think it's going to be phenomenal. And it's always like, like the big venue in the big city. And like sometimes those are the most horrible gigs.
Yeah, right. Because when you go in some place with no expectation, and there's a handful of people, and they're all loving every minute of it. Right. Isn't it funny, right? And sometimes you could go play a gig we were playing some little place in Louisiana once, and we got there, and we were almost just like, oh Jesus Christ, should we just leave? Like it didn't even look like it was just like and we're like, let's just go. And they were so nice and so hospitable, and and they cooked like breakfast the next day. But there was only like 20 people, 20, 30 people. I mean, it was hardly anybody there. And I couldn't believe it. We made like $400 worth of merch or something. It was just crazy. Like everybody was into it, buying stuff.
It was so fun, right?
And it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. And then you end meeting people that become your friends for, forever. And it's like awesome. So it's so true, man. And I think you're right. And then on the flip side of that coin, you might get all excited about, we're playing this venue finally. And it just is an off night or, and whatever. And it's easy to be disappointed. That's a big thing for any musician, right? Especially if you're coming from a place where you've had to grunt it out and do the work, and you're not just stepping into some gigantic pop act, which is pretty rare, I would think. But you learn to appreciate and understand that you just have to that's what you do, and you just perform no matter what. And every night is you give it your best, period, and have to. I think really appreciate every single person, that's into you.
Absolutely. The mentality behind that too, for people that have trouble getting their dander up in those scenarios, because there's people that don't get it, that go, oh man, tonight's gonna suck, and then tonight sucks for them, right? The thing is that you have to realize is, if you practice the gig you want to do every night, whether you're doing the gig you want to do or not, then when you do the gig you want to do, you're going to be good at it. Right. If you don't practice that gig, if you don't give it your all every night, then you're going to get to that gig and it's going to throw you. Like you're all of a sudden you're in a scenario where you've got like 800 people or something, and they're very enthusiastic and screaming and stuff. You're going to have a really bad night because it's distracting, and you're not putting yourself into that focus mode every night when you're doing other stuff. It's like you have to play like you're playing for those people every night, because when you do, that's when it pays off. And that's the way I kind of look at it. Like, I talk to my drummer all the time about, he kind of finds this interesting that I'm able to make myself nervous at rehearsals because I'll visualize those kind of scenarios so that I'm dealing with a little bit of adrenaline and anxiety, because it helps when I'm actually dealing with adrenaline and anxiety, I play well. Most of the time, it's like.
I think you just have to play the best you can all the time, just for the principle of it. And those people came to see you any, those people are there, and every
Right.
person matters.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, and we've played, many, many times you've had people come up going, man, you guys played like you were playing for 2,000 people. And that doesn't mean you're like posing out and being ridiculous, but it means, like you said, you're giving it your all.
It's okay.
Well, that's her job. Somebody's got to do it, and I've got too many pedals.
Yeah, no kidding, right? As the guitar player, boy, you're kind of nailed down sometimes. I don't know, bass players can have big pedal boards too. Jennifer, you do some really cool stuff. Don't you do a track where it's like a solo thing and you create a loop, right? And you build on that. So obviously you got a loop station, but do you have a pretty big pedal board?
Yeah, it's probably unusually large for a bass player. I just have a multi-effects processor and then, the looper and a tuner and an octavite. It's this big. It's this big.
You can't even get it in the screen.
Go get it. We want to see it.
It would be right here,
it's
but it's at her house right now.
Well,
which is like,
live
dude, she
gear
could
is
be
at the studio, the other studio right now.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say she could pop out of the room and be back in 5 minutes. Apparently,
she has a duplicate pedal board though at her house so that she can work on stuff, and she doesn't like to work on everything with me. Otherwise, she'll lose her mind. But
and we're in the middle of the record right now, which I do not run. I run direct when I tracked, just so.
Right.
I'm starting to get used to the idea of playing without any compression or effects of any kind for tracking right now.
But I mean, do you always do that? Has that been a standard that you typically have tracked that way, direct?
Yeah.
And then reamping and all that kind of. Do you put the Vic plug-in on your bass for more?
Right. The Vic is the very first plug-in.
Right
Out of the gates. That low,
it's
deep
so rich.
compression.
It's rich.
I was like,
It's very, very present.
It's like, damn, how do you get that bass, but also the presence? It's the Vic plug-in, man.
I worked out today. Maybe it's that. I don't know.
The Beet Juice plug-in.
The Beet Juice plug-in's pretty great too. That's for when your bends are a little bit out, Travis. You can just finesse them,
Right. I wish I had the Beet Juice plug-in, but I have an old version of Pro Tools, and I don't want to pay for the reoccurring monthly rate.
Oh, no. Are you still getting by on like Pro Tools 9 or some shit?
Exactly. Yeah.
Holy fuck.
At the home studio, I am.
Man, I envy you. Like, the shit hit the fan for me this year. Like, everything finally took a dump, and I had to do it and do the goddamn subscription stuff and all that. But
I'm sticking it. At the home studio, I'm doing that, but the big studio, he finally moved forward. So
yeah,
did you find anything useful about the newer versions of Pro Tools?
I don't remember now. No, it's all shit. No, I mean the Beet Juice plugin, that's worth the subscription.
Right, there's that.
But isn't there? Does 9 have the deal where you can pull the audio on each region? Like there's these little clip you can just adjust it's pretty awesome. I mean, there's definitely some cool little.
Oh, the elastic. Was that the
no, not the elastic audio. It's like you don't have to go in and just necessarily automate. Like region by region, you could just go in and like there's these little teeny little fader things, and you could just bump up and not even out things region by region. Does it have that already? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
he's talking about automation where you draw the lines, like what we do, like we were doing with the other night.
With the MIDI velocity.
Yeah, like you can draw lines with anything. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, I
mean, this is very technical talk, people. It's
Fun
the
stuff.
part where you draw the line.
And then you draw the line and the beat. You know what's going to be great? Someone's going to like listen to this podcast and like, and Google like Vic plugin.
Right.
Beet Juice plugin.
Beet Juice.
The Beet Juice.
Might as well just say that the new version of Pro Tools has spreadsheets in it.
Then.
There you go.
Man, Brian Beller's already. He's probably one of the designers of the fucking thing.
Right.
Hey, he plays. Does Brian play Spectres, right? Is he a Spectre guy? Or he's probably plays a lot of different.
He's the Mike.
Mike Lowell.
Yeah.
Is it? Well, he's got a bunch of those. I'm not sure
The
if he's got other stuff.
and the I don't know.
He plays multiple stuff, but. Yeah, I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to that. I pay more attention to like, what are we eating tonight?
I just say that because my fiance plays bass and she's a big Spectre. Like when we went to NAMM the first time she went with me, she was just like standing in front of the Spectres, like
Spectre.
Well, you kind of do that with all your earlier NAMMs with everything,
dude,
right?
Yeah, seriously. The first time I went to a NAMM, I was just like, you're just looking at, look at this guitar. It looks like a machine gun. And then I'll stand in line for 2 hours to get so-and-so's autograph. And it's kind of like, okay, been there, done that. Yeah, the coolest thing about, I mean, they're great, the show itself, but yeah, those the after party jams and all that stuff is always super, super cool, man. And some of the ones you're talking about, you just see these all-star casts get up and jam together. And
this last year was the most I've ever done at an NAMM show, believe it or not. Like it's still, there's room to fit more in there, but
yeah.
I did, I was demoing like every hour on the hour on the floor during the NAMM show.
Was that music? Where were you doing that?
This year it was Fishman pickups.
You mean last year?
By the way,
last year.
Yeah, 2020, where we all actually got COVID and didn't know it. Yeah, that.
Right.
Exactly.
You know what? I think I saw at Ernie Ball, it was so packed you could barely peek, but I think it was Paul Gilbert and Steve Morse playing together.
Yep.
It was incredible.
Yep.
It was awesome.
That happened. Yeah. So I did
Fishman pickups.
This was the first year in a long time too that Jen and I didn't do a set at Music Man because I was locked in with the Fishman thing because they were releasing some new stuff and I was there. I was they have like the bow of the ship stage at the like out on the aisle, and then they have like the bigger performance stage on the inside, and I was doing both. So I had I'm going to be out front, you know, kind of doing these demos, and then I'm going to do my artist performance on the big stage. So I was there all day, every day, and then I did jams every night that we were there. Like that was the most I've ever done. I did a thing on I think it was like the City Walk. And then I did a thing with Larry Mitchell at what's the hotel across from
Marriott.
At the Marriott, and then I did the X Jam with everybody that's our show, and it was like it was crazy. You go through these things with NAMM where you start out and it's like awe-inspiring and you're like a kid. And then you start trying to get deals, and there's those years of trying to be productive. That's where the years where she would be yelling at me, "Go talk to that guy. Go talk to this guy. Like, go talk to that guy.
Tell him he's your biggest fan. It works."
Right.
Yeah. Right. And then you get to the point past that where it becomes a job. And the last NAMM I had was definitely a job. It was great. It's great to be able to say you did all this stuff, but I was too tired to enjoy it. You know what I mean?
It's pretty can be pretty exhausting.
Yeah.
But at least you guys live down the road, so you don't have to worry about the big flight and all that, right? You just, roll on down there. It's not as bad.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's all about when you roll down there, because if you hit the...
that's a
hit
good
it
point.
wrong, it could be longer than any cross-country flight.
If we start talking like Californians, it's like, well, you hit the 101 into the 405 into the 5, and then you get to the traffic, and then you'd be sitting there for like an hour, and then what you got to do is you got to get off at Lancashire.
Get off at Lancashire.
Yeah. Old L.A. It's fun,
Californians.
Fun stuff. Californians.
So what was your first, awe-inspiring moment at NAMM of seeing somebody that like freaked you out? Do you remember?
No.
Jen has a short-term memory.
Yep. For things like that, I do. Yes.
I remember that we walked into NAMM for the very first time ever. And by the way, this last January, like 2 months ago, that was the first NAMM we've missed in 22 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't they do some kind of virtual, which I don't know how that worked. I got some emails or something. So what was that all about?
Yeah.
Did you tune into any of that, or what was...
Yeah, it was basically like virtual demos, and a lot of companies were just posting pre-recorded video things where they had a company space that you would go to, and they would have promo videos, and then also you could schedule sales meetings if you were the sales guys.
Okay.
So then they would do like a Zoom sales call kind of thing. So it was like that, but it was, obviously it was way different. But so we walked into the very first NAMM that we'd ever been to, and these were actually passes that are, so we say we never really had a manager. We had a great friend of ours for like 5 minutes at the very beginning of the band that was helping us book stuff and trying to do things that would help further us. And he got us NAMM passes. He's like, "This is a music thing. You guys got to go to this. It's important. You got to go to it." We're like,
"Get on the 101.
Drive to the 405, get off at the 5. If there's too much traffic, hit Lancashire."
Lancashire's all the way up in Hollywood.
I know
Why do you
is.
keep saying that?
Because I don't really want to sound like I know.
Get off on Cahuenga. And
Exactly. Cahuenga meets up with Lancashire. Then you go to the Big Potato. Anyway, so we walk into this thing, and being, started out as a keyboard player and my brother playing those ELP records, and we hear this really loud moog. And it's like around, it's up some hallway around a corner. And it's like, wee, 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 wee. And I'm like, wow, it sounds like Keith Emerson, and we walk around, and it is Keith Emerson. Mm-hmm. That was my first 5 minutes in a NAMM show experience of what NAMM is.
Yeah.
And then you quickly realize everybody's a rock star, so there's no rock stars.
Yeah.
It's like everybody.
It's weird, right? Because you see all the real rock stars and doing,
right.
But then there's a million other people that are dressed up, and you're like, is that a rock star? I don't know. Right. Is it just someone who really wants to be a rock star who's here walking around looking at stuff?
And then you start, when you start becoming a professional musician for real, and then you start getting tired, you're the one that stops looking like a rock star. You just start showing up.
Like hell.
Yeah, the guys that are working, because they're the ones running through the halls.
Right.
Fucking trying to get to, I got to be here at 3:30.
Yep. And that would be us for the last 10 years. That was the last decade of our career. It was running around with gig bags, having to be at this booth and that booth and this booth, and do this.
One of my more recent NAMMs, I had a little bit of that sort of rock star thing where the year I tripped on the escalator and tore my knee up.
Yikes.
So my pants were just covered in blood, and I'm walking the show because I had to get somewhere, and all of a sudden everyone kind of thought I was somebody because I had blood all over me.
Yeah, it was part of a thing.
It's part of my big costume.
Because cool people
goth.
have bloody knees.
Right.
Yeah.
They were like, ooh, she must be cool. She's bloody.
The truth is that
The truth is I ate shit
you'd had
and nearly
probably
killed myself.
you had a few drinks maybe too, right?
No, that was on the NAMM floor.
Oh, okay. You didn't have a few on the NAMM floor?
No.
Because nobody drinks on the NAMM floor, as you guys know.
Oh, dude, it's no, they do, though. I mean, and you'll see those long lines at the bars, and it's $45 a beer. It's again, go back to your first NAMM, and it's kind of exciting. And then, after buying one beer, I'm like, I'm never buying a beer at a NAMM show again. This is ridiculous.
Especially at 11 a.m. for crying.
Yeah,
out
right?
loud.
And let me stand in a line and spend all of my money on one beer for no reason.
Right.
Well, she got on the wrong escalator with one of our...
I was trying to catch one of your performances.
Yeah?
And was running behind, and...
She was with one of our A&R friends, and she's they're going down the escalator. She's like, oh, we're on the wrong line. She turns around, want to try it? And she starts running
Up.
And then you ate
up
it.
the escalator. And she ate it into that metal, the super sharp freaking steps on an escalator. Yes. And so this is a day that we're going to put on a show that night, too. So she goes through the whole day. Eventually you went back to the hotel, right? And I don't know if you iced it. Did you?
I don't remember.
It would have been a good idea. But
So you weren't covered in blood for the performance that night?
No, I managed to change into something, I think.
Well, here's the story. You came to the show, and you had changed, and it was starting to soak through your second pair of pants.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, shit. Okay, come with me. So we went out to the van.
Damn. That is some rock star shit right there, though. So was it worth it? Have every NAMM since you like to eat it on the first day. Wear a meat dress to the next NAMM show.
That's a dated reference too, because now Lady Gaga's legit, right? But
yeah, isn't that funny, right? I remember hearing the name Lady Gaga, not knowing much about her, and then you're just like, oh yeah, she's the one that dresses in ridiculous, and then you find out holy fuck, she's amazing.
Yeah, and by the way, A Star Is Born, one of the most realistic music movies
I love that
I've
movie.
seen.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
It's funny because if you watch music movies and you're really in that world, you watch them, and you kind of go, yeah, okay, it's a movie version of this. Mm-hmm. But the way they really put that together, where what it really is backstage at a stadium show, and what it really is side stage and Saturday Night Live and all that stuff, the way they made it so much more realistic,
right.
It's really that was a really well done movie as far as what it feels like to be standing in those places. It's
interesting. Yeah, I didn't really think about it from that perspective. From someone like you watching that, you're like, oh, that's authentic.
Yeah, because when you watch Rockstar, it's a fun movie, but come on.
Yeah.
It's a little bit ridiculous. I realize it was the 80s, but it's a little ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I love Rockstar. In Rockstar, the one where Zach Wilde's the guitar player.
Yeah.
And he's just shooting things out of the tour bus.
Right.
Yeah. Mark
Exactly.
Wahlberg was the guy, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of things happen, but they don't necessarily happen like in that movie where it's just back to back so much craziness. I mean, I suppose they could have, but
Well, that
it felt
comes
a
back
little like a movie.
comes back to what you said earlier. I think a lot of stuff, because it's entertainment, right? And so, you put people on a pedestal as artists. I mean, sometimes rightfully so, like great, really legitimate, wonderful artists, and other times totally not rightfully so at all, right? One way or another, they're put on this pedestal, and so then it's almost like you said, there's that person as a person, just hanging out, but then there's that person, that persona of that person, and so the entertainment industry is based on that, and us. So of course, all that stuff's going to be romanticized, like, oh, the bands are partying all the time and drunk all the time and tearing up hotels. I mean, some of that's legit, but I mean, I think a lot of times it's probably at some point like a band has to like practice
Right.
and has to like do shit, and especially in the
Right.
beginning, right? Like so many bands in the beginning, it's not like they were just all boozing it up, fucking around. It's like they had to go out there and work really hard to get where they were to a certain level.
There's video of Keith Richards throwing a TV out the window of a hotel, and they absolutely were doing that stuff because the cameras were rolling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like at this point, I mean, there's, people are real people, and it's funny how you don't realize that. I mean, when Jen and I started, we thought Rush lived, we saw the videos where they had like Le Studio, in Quebec and all that stuff. And you think Toronto, or is that where it was? The studio itself. But it's like you see snow dogs running around out there in the trees, and you're like, they live in castles in the snow and they have snow dogs. And, these guys, and I mean, there's a truth to that, but it's not the truth that you think. I mean, yeah, sure, they've got big houses and they live out there in the snow and all that stuff, but it's not like what you picture. It's like they're real people with wives and a couple of kids, and they got some money, sure, but it's not what you picture when you're like 15,
Yeah, no kidding.
These guys are mystical, crazy beings, and
Well, it's because they wore capes. What else would you expect?
that's what we screwed up.
Yeah,
Wow.
wearing a well, you put your logo on there, man. Travis Larson Band. You know what? If you start doing that, you're not going to get confused for a rodeo band anymore, because I don't think any cowboy bands wear capes.
I know. Well, the new logo has the new logo has a bunch of math on it. We're trying slowly to make our graphics better and better. So
the new logo, not the TLB thing, right?
well, no, it's the one It's that one. That's
Hey, that's back.
Yeah. So by the way, so look what I got right here. I don't know if you can. Let's see if we can see this. Like, boom! Look at that.
oh, look at that.
Sloppy ass signatures on there.
Yeah, wow. Those are some fairly rock star looking signatures.
They are.
That was
They are
after
very
the
rock star.
cocaine bumps in New York.
I like the. I really like the artwork on this album a lot. The dude in the mask in the back with the typewriter. It's kind of what's up with who does the artwork, or is it a really
Yeah.
multitask? Wow.
Again, that necessity is the mother of invention. We had to do everything in house, and at some point, somebody had to do the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So it became me. I do the website also. Still to this day. In fact,
Damn.
I'm already like, oh my god, what are we gonna do for this record? But
What is your,
I started doing the artwork by the third record, I think it was.
Hey, I want to. Speaking of the artwork, I was looking at this and I was wondering about this.
That's not me, by the way, with a gas mask on.
Oh, okay. Well,
Although it does look kind of like me. It's a pretty lanky, tall dude. But we thought we were so ahead of our time when the COVID thing happened, because
yeah, you
that
really
album-
were, man. You guys knew what was up. You must
Right?
like be buddies with Bill Gates or something. He kind of gave you the lowdown.
Right. Well, that's why we have so much money to promote our band, and why
Right,
we
Bill.
we tour
Bill's
in
backing,
buses.
Right.
backing you guys. So the latest album, how do you say it? Annika?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the way we say it.
That's the
Although
way we say it.
What does that mean, or where does that come from? I don't know what that word is. Is it a word?
Yes, it's a word. It's a Buddhist. Well, actually, I guess more of a Tibetan language, and it's actually pronounced anicca.
Oh,
But it was going to be too difficult to get that across in rock and roll culture. It means impermanence, and so the concept is that not that everything is impermanent, and that's okay. And change is all we can really count on in life, is everything changing. So hence the artwork concept was based on old cars. I went and did a photo shoot at a junkyard and took pictures of lots of cars that used to be beautiful, amazing things, and then they changed. Now they're considered junky things, but I consider them still beautiful and just in a different phase of their existence.
If you look at the Annika artwork album,
it's intriguing. Like that's what I'm referring to because it's intriguing. Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, there's a lot of angles and things that she shot of these cars that, it's like some of the pictures you couldn't even tell if it was a vehicle, and we had to kind of make that more clear.
Well, that's actually a hood ornament off of I'm going to forget now, 1956 Buick. And it was one of the first things I saw in that. It's actually, I called a boneyard is the proper term, not a junkyard. And I just was so impressed or blown away by that image. So it was interesting to me that it ended up being the one I ultimately used for the album cover. But yeah, I did a whole series of shots of old cars in this boneyard, and it was really fascinating.
I was going to say, if people are interested, there's a trailer for the album on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, which she put together with all the shots. There might even be some shots in there that weren't on the album.
Yeah, oh yeah, because actually on that tour we did remember the auction of the photos?
Right.
That was based on a Keneally event where he was auctioning off doodles and things. So I was like, I have all of these photographs and they're all, I think, really interesting. So we would auction them off at the shows on that tour of just different old cars. And yeah.
It was, there's like so much with that record that was, it's really us wearing our influences on our sleeve purposefully, whereas in the first couple of records we were doing that because that's what we knew. We were punk kids and we were making a couple, I don't want to crap on our early records, but they're your early records and you're learning. But then we kind of started to find a sound, and then that record was kind of like, let's just play stuff that sounds like 80s Rush meets the Dixie Dregs meets Jeff Beck. I mean, it's just full out, like just not even worrying about it, and some of my favorite stuff is on that album. But the idea was kind of, like all the bands that we were, and there's like some ELP-ish stuff on there, some hidden in the mix, but the idea was that we were losing all these artists around that time we were making that record. We lost 2 guys from ELP within a year. And Rush as a band stopped, broke up. Everybody that kind of knew they were breaking up, even though they kind of were very polite and Canadian about it. But Rush as an entity is done, which, for us it's like heartbreaking because that was like our first connection of music really as a band. And so there was all this stuff happening when we were making that record. And then, so that kind of is part of the idea of impermanence and things, not lasting forever, but still, the beauty of them lingering, I guess.
Yeah. I love the influences you cited too, because I mean, man, it was a little later in the game for me that I really realized like Jeff Beck, just wow, wow, and, but I feel like there's a really nice, one thing I really like about your music is there's these really cool progressive moments. It always sounds like, especially these latest few albums, that sonically sound great. And everyone's really got, because there's not a lot of clutter, right? You really have your space and you have wonderful tones and textural things going on, like clean guitars and then your melody in the middle and Jennifer's bass, and everyone sounds amazing. But you'll have these like cool progressive moments, but then it's always like there's always some really nice melody, and it's just like, and it's very like it's like kind of disciplined, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like the music. There's nothing to
rambly.
Prove. Yeah,
it's not rambly.
Yeah,
right?
It's really cohesive, but yeah, it's just that when you sort of citing the mixture of Rush and Jeff Beck, I'm like, yeah, I can see that, where you're coming from those places. As
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
one of the things that, it's interesting you mentioned how clean things sound, and it still sounds like us, even though on a record we try and do so much production. It's like that's the Steve Morse influence production wise is there. You have no idea how many guitars you're listening to, and it still sounds like us, but there's, it's like, we'll put like a steel string rhythm guitar on one side and a nylon string rhythm guitar on the other side, and a piano like at 10 o'clock and something else, it's like, and we do so much layering on these records, but we don't make it, we're not trying to make it sound fat. We're trying to make it sound good.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want it to sound like a wall of sound, like something heavy, like the Foo Fighters or something like that. I mean, that's cool for certain things. I love that, but that's not why you layer and layer and layer. But just from a production aspect, it's interesting to bring that up because
I love the separation, and it's just, you've got these, everything really has a space that just sounds great in that space. What do you like for recording wise? I mean, we talked about Pro Tools, but I mean, and Jennifer, you were saying you do DI a lot for recordings, and then do you do reamping, or are you doing plugins? And Travis, I mean, you're playing through amps, or what's your secret?
Well, you just bought a pedal version, basically what we've been using on Pro Tools on the records.
I just usually run. Does my voice sound different or something? What's going on?
No, it's the normal amount of squeak.
Okay, good.
We were using a SansAmp plug-in on a lot of...
Dude, I use that thing all the time. It's crazy how good that thing is, right?
Yeah. So I'll run direct, but sometimes I will have to use a little bit of compression going in just so I can play the part, especially if it's a slap style. I mean, just to record the track. But other than that, I go straight in and SansAmp it, and EQ tweaking and whatever verb chorus. I've been adding a certain amount of dirtiness as the final little layer on some songs, and
like a little bit of distortion, but always keep the main bass sound.
Well, so when you do that, do you split out tracks? Do you have like a clean track and then another track that you blend the two, right? Or is that what you do?
Not for me. I usually just run mono, and everything is...
Well, if you're talking about going in that way. But when we mix, we do exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Like
we'll
it
mix sounds
it to a
freaking
second.
huge. I'm like amazed, actually, because it just sounds...
When we're doing like where she's really driving and doing a heavy thing, we'll run like a SansAmp channel and overdrive that and mix that in with the clean bass.
Right.
But always keep the clean bass. That's the one thing that... that's the thing that changed after the 80s, back in the old days, like that's the difference in Getty from like the 80s to more modern Getty sounds is the bottom. If you distort the whole bass, you lose all the bottom.
Right. Yep.
So you have to have the bass, but then if you want to add a little bit of fuzz over the top of it to add some note, because especially when you're playing in like a heavy rock section where if, maybe we're both hammering power chords for a section, and if you want to hear the diversity of what she's doing, you have to get it to peak out. And that's how you do it. It's a little bit of that fuzz where all of a sudden you hear note as opposed to just boom, 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 So
and you hear a squeak.
Yeah, squeak. You hear a squeak.
The signature sound. You should have your own signature bass with like a little.
Right.
See, this is gonna
like the Bumblefoot guitar with the fucking.
Right. No.
Right. So,
you guys have you ever met Ron Thal? Have you ever played with him?
No, I am very, very, very good friends with who's very good friends with him.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Ron Thal's very cool, man.
I haven't actually met him in person, but I end up in a lot of conversations about him because I'm really close to somebody that's close to him. Yeah. It's like, oh, Ron did this today, or Ron did that today,
And so you're tracking then, are you plug-in stuff too, or are you going amp? What's your stuff?
I'm all direct since 2004.
Okay.
The first two records we mic'd cabs, and then we realized after that you didn't really have to mic cabs anymore.
Yeah.
And that's only gotten better. So it's all speaker simulators. If I need feedback, I use the monitors. You know, and that's a pretty standard thing to do. Like we did a record with Steve Lukather once, and when he was getting feedback to hold, where you're just using the monitors in the studio.
Yeah.
You know, but everything I run is direct and lexicon delays and reverbs, and then I started getting drier and drier on the last couple of records, and then adding stuff more in the mix than in the recording process. But I generally go to tape with pretty much what you hear. I'm old school in that I don't like to do a complete dry input and then reamp completely. I'd rather have the inspiration of, you know, what is this generally going to be, especially if you're using
and stuff on the track.
Right. And what I do, I kind of have a general rule that I've lived by on the recent, you know, say the last 4 albums, where I just take my live delay sound and turn it down 10% for the record.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll change the time of it based on a song. You know, if it doesn't sound right, there's a delay time that could work universally for a live show. But if you're doing a record, you might want to get more specific.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You want
and when you
to
can,
go.
I mean, you're going to be following the tempo. Right. And live, I always had a problem, the whole pedal dancing thing about trying to fucking tap it. I can't deal with it, man. Like, just get something close.
Well, she found me a delay calculator. You need the delay calculator is what you need.
Well, that's for recording
for recording,
you
right.
can't tap tempo it.
What do you use? Let's go back to your pedal board, Travis. What's on your pedal board for live?
Right now, it's a completely obsolete Digitech IPB10, which is the one with the iPad that plugs in.
Oh, wow.
But the brain on it is the same brain that they had on the early, like the 1101, 2101, 1101 that was Alex Lifeson was using. So it's funny because Digitech, you know, has kind of a reputation for making cheap, not great stuff. And since that company I don't even know if they exist anymore. I don't mind saying that. But they also were Lexicon and JBL and all this other stuff. And
that was all the same at the same company? Yep. Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So it was all under the umbrella of Harman. Thank you. People, you know, you say Digitech and people would always be like, Digitech, they make crap. Well, yeah, they make $50 plastic pedals, but they also make $500 metal pedals.
Yeah, they get a bad name, though. That's the thing, is like things will get a bad name from that guy that has a full stack of Marshalls and then he puts a $50 all-encompassing pedal and turns everything on 11, and it's just like, you know, delay and reverb forever. Yeah, so that's, you know, it's basically like every other multi-switcher, bunch of inputs for different effects loops. I run some external stuff. I use some drop tune things for live because I'll do drop tuning on the records just for a section. And then... so you can just hit a pedal and it'll just drop... Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so Jen and I deal with that a lot for both of us, actually, because we don't compose from a guitar-bass standpoint always. Sometimes you compose from your brain. And that doesn't always make it easy to play live, you know, especially if you're just like, no, but I want to hear this, so figure out how to do it. For the moment, I'll drop tune this thing and capo something and do something weird just so I can get what I want to hear. And then live, you start
recording.
Going, okay, how am I going to do this? Yeah.
Hey, do you ever write music out, like any kind of programs or anything like that?
We do a lot of MIDI sequencing in Pro Tools now, which is only on the last record and this record, but no, I've never we're full on, we're punk kids in a garage, man. We learned how to do this in the van, and
we dumb.
Yeah. Although
that's the best thing that anyone's ever said on this podcast so far, so congratulations.
We dumb.
Travis Larson, that's going to be the Travis Larson's band.
That's going to be the new t-shirt.
We dumb.
We dumb.
I'll buy that fucking shirt, dude. Shit. Let me know when that happens.
Well, we had one that was the one from the Shift record was Shift Happens, and everybody loved that because you know, from a distance it totally looked like, you know.
Yep.
You can say it.
Right. Well, you know.
Shit happens.
Well, you can say it. I'm the
all right.
I'm the upstanding citizen.
Man, I'm so not upstanding. This is actually Vic. This is by far being our cleanest podcast, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
So
Normally you're doing lines and smoking crack and
a lot of times I just rant and start talking about
get a couple of
horrible
hookers and an
things.
8-ball.
It's part of where Vic gets that voice, that charm. So it's all part of the, it's that rock star thing, man.
Is Vic always this quiet on your podcast?
Yeah, I talk way too much, so Vic just.
Vic is like my Jennifer Young.
Right. Everybody's got to have their foil.
Right.
What's on your mind, Vic?
What's on my mind? I'm still thinking about Krispy Kremes.
Oh, see, that's Vic checked out of this interview like 2 hours ago when he started talking about donuts and milk.
Yeah,
it's a man
Krispy
after my
Kremes,
own heart, right there.
milk and whiskey.
So, but
Speaking about, how long is this thing supposed to go?
Oh, we're about done. I'm glad you chimed in because these things have been going way too long, and then as we were talking about before we started. And then we have to edit the fucking thing, and it sucks. So I'm just going to chop all this shit out, and the whole interview is going to be like, Travis Larson Band, we dumb, and that's it.
Perfect.
well, that's about the right for the attention span of the interwebs these days, right?
Perfect. Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
And we'll
I
keep
wonder
in
if
the
that'll
juicy
sell the next
stuff.
record.
Yeah, like cocaine,
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy
Krispy
Kreme.
Kreme.
That's
Yeah,
kinda,
it'll just chop cocaine, Krispy Kremes. We dumb. TravisLarsonBand.com.
that views just skyrocket.
Right? People be all over this. We'll be making hand over fist.
We'll be making like $5 whole.
Oh man.
So to answer your question,
Well, I don't even remember what it was. Did I have a
What
question?
was the question?
Pro Tools,
Oh yeah.
both direct. We always record Dale old school. We mic all the drums.
Oh, yeah.
He has to play his ass off. Poor Dale sits in the. Both of us sitting in the control room with him. And
Do it again. Do it again.
Yeah.
One more time.
You still
One more
suck. Go
time.
do it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
crap.
So that's
Did you say you track him at that other studio, Avalon, or does he track here? Just another.
we track
studio?
it. We track at the big studio Avalon, which is in San Luis Obispo proper. We're on the outskirts. We're actually there's a on the coast of San Luis Obispo. There's a place called Morro Bay, California, and the bay kind of there's a few little different kind of communities around the bay, and we're in one of those.
Okay.
So, but I don't want to talk too much about it because right before Oprah went off the air, she did a whole show on this town saying it was the happiest, best place to live in America. And you don't want people knowing that because then everybody wants to come here.
No,
So edit that part out.
The greatest. Well, if anyone else is like me, they're not gonna. You can say the same thing 5 times and I won't remember it. So
Right.
I still don't know where you live. I just know it's somewhere
Right.
between LA and San Francisco. It
Right.
starts with there's like a million places that start with San in
Right.
California. So I think you're pretty safe.
San Dimas, right?
San Dimas.
California.
That's it. That's
Yep.
where it is.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They
right.
got the water slides and Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted.
Yeah. Don't
And the
come to
7-Eleven.
San Luis Obispo because you won't like it here, and we won't be riding mountain bikes around on a daily basis. And
It sounds
We
like
lost Vic.
it really sounds like a horrible place
Oh, there he is.
oh,
going on.
No,
there.
he just
It's
froze.
skitzing out, thinking about Krispy Kreme. Well,
Right.
this
Yeah,
this
probably.
has been a pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us. And sorry
I feel
about
like we could do a whole nother one because we didn't really talk about much.
Okay.
Yeah. Think of how many hours it's going to take to do the 7th album.
Oh, God. No.
No, that's okay.
Right.
Right. Now, look, we've been doing this for 30 years, and if we have to, we can take over. But if
I'm
it's
pretty sure you did take over.
no,
That's why we never got to the second album.
But Skunk took
Right, it's
over.
it's your fault, Travis.
No,
I'm gonna
Travis.
Skunk
thank
took
you,
over.
Jennifer.
But
Vic,
it was,
whose fault is it?
He's just like milk.
What the
But-
fuck happened to Vic? Oh, he's gone. Vic's just
He's
gone.
done.
He just checked out. That's never happened. This is the first podcast Vic was ever late. My Pro Tools totally quit working, and then
he
Vic
was late, and then he was early leaving.
and then he was early leaving because he wanted
You
to
know
go
what
have milk and Krispy Kreme.
We
so.
actually have what we call the TLB curse, and so you just experienced that firsthand.
Now I'm
Sorry.
I'm actually gonna wait for Vic to come back on. I'm actually freaking out because Vic is always the guy that like sends out the link and then he stops it and then he handles that. So I'm like, I don't know if I should touch anything.
Uh-oh.
All right, hang tight. I'm gonna text Vic.
Okay.
And
Does
this
that
is
mean
all.
I can't go potty?
Are we off
No,
the
you-
air for a moment?
We're not, but you can go potty. We can just.
We don't have to put this on the air, but yeah, go potty. I'll go potty too. No, I'm serious.
Well, we want to say goodbye.
We will. I'm not saying we're going to sign off. I'm saying
Yeah,
I'm
you
going to
can
run
run.
and take a piss.
Run to the bathroom real quick.
Is everybody going to the bathroom? Is it
I
a bathroom
am.
run?
I am.
Well, I'm not going to just leave
I
Scott
am.
hanging out by himself.
Oh, he's
It's
just
okay.
trying to find Vic.
So just.
All right.
Vic says my
be right
connection
back.
dropped. Well, we know that much.
Well, my word.
My word, what a podcast! How is y'all's So you guys have done several of these. How do they go? Are they a huge fucking disaster like this one, or are they professional?
They're always, yes, disastrous. Travis always talks too much. I sit here, and that's how it goes.
It's good to know that there's a similar dynamic on your end. One guy just yep. You just give him. I think your looks throughout this podcast are what are really priceless.
Oh, no.
When you just sort of like look at him and glare at him like your
Oh, right.
information
All
is
right.
completely inaccurate. Oh, look, maybe. Vic, you can do it.
Oh yeah.
Were you guys affected by all that Texas storming down there?
Oh man, it was a fucking shit show. Yeah, it was brutal.
Sorry.
We were relatively lucky. Neither one of us. Hey Vic, neither one of us had any pipes burst or anything crazy
Okay.
like that. But we had no water for 5 days. So many people lost power. It was especially
Scary.
in Texas. It's just like,
Yeah.
what in the hell is going on? Really
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I'm glad you
We survived.
Yeah.
So where are you at in the stages of this final of this new record that's been happening over the whole last, year or whatever? Are you most of it tracked
We
or
got
writing?
started really late. Neither one of us were very inspired this whole last year, so we
Yeah.
just kind of took some time. So we're in the writing process,
Okay.
writing and arranging. We've got 7 songs pretty much
Okay.
charted out, and we usually do 12 per record. I don't know why. And then
No, my hat is off to you on that because God, it's hard to do a whole record. It's a lot. It's a lot of work.
a lot of music, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So we'll probably another month and a half of writing, I'm guessing, and then we'll start tracking. Is Vic with us yet?
I don't know. I'm gonna text somebody like, "Hey, do I hit the red button?" That's all I need to know. Hold on.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I jinxed us in the very beginning when I was like, "Oh yeah, it's just a mess and editing," and then this happened. It's gonna be like the worst podcast just of like editing.
There he is.
Hola.
So should,
Hola.
What the hell? Where's he? What's happening?
here.
I can.
so should we pick up and like do a sign off and talk about like how to find us and all that kind of stuff? at
Yeah,
some point?
yeah. Vic,
Yeah,
where
do
are
it
you?
Quick. I see him.
What's
Yeah.
happening? I don't
He's here.
see him. As long as he's here. Okay, we're gonna let you sign off.
Oh, we got to start over, right? No.
So,
Travis Larson Band. Is it travislarsonband.com, right?
yeah. So, like, how should we segue? So it seems like we're segueing though.
Just right there. That's perfect.
No,
Okay,
we're just gonna
so-
keep all that weird shit.
Yeah, we're
right.
gonna have our little bathroom break. and
Yeah,
everything.
I'm not gonna edit all that shit. Fuck it, go.
Okay, if you're not going to edit out my bathroom break, then okay. If you're just joining us, we've returned from the bathroom, and now
There you
we're
go.
going to talk about if you want to find out more about Travis Larson Band. TravisLarsonBand.com is the main place. LARSON, as the Swedes spell it, and we're also on all that other stuff: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I don't know the Twitter. I don't do the Twitch.
Twitter
I don't know
sucks.
what that is.
None of us do. Yeah, Twitch. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll
Video
post
games.
we post things on everything. But TravisLarsonBand.com is where you want to find us, and we're working on our next record, which should be out sometime in the next 3 years, depending on how the world goes. I'm assuming that there's a chance that 2022 will see us back out there on the
Right.
road. We're all kind of like doing this, so
Looking for those.
but, that's the rough plan at this point.
Yeah, that's the plan.
looking forward to it. Can't wait for the next record. And hope to see you guys on tour again. And
thank you guys.
Yeah,
thank you guys for supporting music and doing a podcast like this.
Yeah.
And Skunk, by the way, I'll give you some props. I searched around a little bit. I like to make sure people aren't insane before we end up on a podcast with them for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I saw some of your playing. You play really great guitar, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was almost wondering, man, did he just not research this at all? Like, do they have any idea what they're getting into here? But, no, man, I appreciate that, and thanks for doing it.
Yeah, I went poking around, and I saw I saw a wide variety of things, which is always a good thing. But I saw some nice Gilmore-esque leads going on.
Oh yeah,
Really
I'm a
cool.
huge Gilmore fan for sure.
Yeah, he's got that Gilmore touch going.
Cool.
It's really nice.
I'll have to check it out.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Travis Larson and Jennifer Young, everybody. Fantastic. Speaking of, absolutely fantastic musicians and players. So you should definitely go check out their music. Plenty of it to check out. And thank you, too, for joining us. Once again, this has been Eclectic Soundtrax Podcast with Skunk Manhattan and Victor Ramos. 100%.
Thank you, Skunk and Vic.
Thank you, guys.
Yay.
Perfect, flawless podcast.
All right. Perfect.
All right. Until next time. See ya. All right. Hang tight.